Chapter 17. Chen Hao's head actually hit the chest of the guy who was at the front of the group. He knocked him to the ground. The guy screamed as he curled up into a ball, his face pale. The guy who was rushing at the back was also blocked. Chen Hao did not stop. After knocking the guy down, he quickly ran to the end of the tunnel. He stared coldly at the guys without a trace of fear. Fuck. Motherfucker, he stole something and still beat people up? Beat him to death. Beat this scum to death. The group of scum did not expect Chen Hao to be so fierce. The person who was supposed to beat him up was beaten up instead. How could they tolerate this? Furthermore, Chen Hao was still a kid without any cultivation. They immediately clamored and wanted to rush up. However, before they could even take a step, Chen Hao once again let out a deep roar like an angry calf. With a shocking speed and a monstrous aura, he charged at them in the same manner. "You're looking for death? Hi." The person in front shouted angrily. He lowered his waist and took a step forward. His fist shone with a faint red light and violently punched out. The faint red energy of a first-grade martial warrior poured into his fist. "Junior, get out of the way." Xiao Jishan, who had not yet recovered from his shock, saw this scene and wanted to stop it. However, it was too late. Chen Hao's speed was too damn fast. It was so fast that even he felt inferior. He could only shout. His heart was filled with endless regret. He regretted that he had acted too late. Chen Hao's first attack could be said to have caught the guy off guard. That was why he was knocked over by Chen Hao. But now, no matter how hard Chen Hao's head was, could it be harder than the iron fist of a first-grade martial warrior? Using a hammer to hit the head was almost the same concept. Ping! Ah, gotcha! The sound of a huge impact was still accompanied by a scream. However, this time there was the crisp sound of bones breaking. Chen Hao covered his head and quickly retreated without saying a word. As for the scum who had thrown out the powerful punch, he screamed and bent down. His left hand covered his right hand. His face was pale and cold sweat dripped down. My hand. Ah, Xiao Jishan abruptly stopped himself, and his eyeballs almost fell to the ground. No matter what, he would never have thought that Chen Hao, this seemingly weak and frail junior brother, would actually be so valiant. Could it be that his head was made of iron? Obviously not, because Chen Hao, who had retreated, was grimacing in pain, covered in cold sweat, and holding his head with both hands. However, he still did not make any sound of pain, and his eyes were still coldly staring at the group of scum. He was like a venomous wolf trapped in a cage, emitting a chilling aura. Although Xiao Jishan hadn't been able to stop Luo Yunyang, he had already rushed in front of everyone. His shout had reached everyone's ears. Other than being shocked and angry at Chen Hao, this group of scum did not dare to rush forward. Xiao Jishan coldly looked at the group of scum, walked in front of Chen Hao, and asked with concern, "Junior brother, are you all right?" "I'm fine," Chen Hao said. "Senior brother Jishan, this kid stole our things, he's a thief," one of the scum angrily said. They clearly felt that Xiao Jishan was protecting Chen Hao. They knew that if they attacked now, there would be no hope. "Thief? Stole your things?" The naked Xiao Jishan coldly turned around, and coldly stared at the group of scum, and coldly asked. "Yes, we saw with our own eyes that he stole our things in his cupboard. Not only did he steal our things, he also injured Ji Yuan and Ji Tao. Our Xiao family will never allow such scum to exist. Senior brother Jishan, you have to uphold justice for us. Is that so? You're sure he stole your things?" "We're sure," the group of scum said with unusual certainty. They personally stuffed their things into Chen Hao's cupboard, so of course they were sure. So what if Xiao Jishan had a good impression of this kid? A thief, especially one who just entered the Xiao family and exposed his vile nature, would be expelled from the Xiao family without any suspense. "Did you see? Just speak the truth." Xiao Jishan suddenly smiled and stared at the group of shocked youths hiding in the corner and asked. To be able to become a Xiao family disciple, of course, they were not fools. Although these youths were frightened by the scene just now, they could see that the tall youth who asked the question was protecting Chen Hao, and they could also see that the tall youth had an extraordinary status. Moreover, they were not Chen Hao who knew nothing about the Xiao family. Even if they had not seen Xiao Jishan, They had heard of him. What kind of person was he? Only Chen Hao did not know. Therefore they knew what they should say, and what they said was the truth. No, we didn't see. The group of youths said in unison. What did you see? The smile on Xiao Jishan's face became wider. We saw them come in and hit him, saying that he stole something, and other than that, we don't know. Very good. Xiao Jishan nodded with satisfaction, the smile on his face disappeared, and once again looked coldly at the group of scum, and said, Did you hear that? They didn't see anything. Senior brother Jishan, it doesn't matter if they saw or not, we just need to search this kid's cupboard. If you can't find anything? Xiao Jishan said coldly. If you can't find anything, then forget it, we'll treat it as if we've wronged him. You really know how to talk. Your words are even better than singing. Xiao Jishan said coldly, if you can't find anything, then you're framing him. Our Xiao family does not need scum like you. Of course, if we can find anything, then this junior brother will be expelled from the Xiao family. How about it? No problem. Senior brother Jishan. One of the scum said loudly. But before he could finish, he was interrupted by another scum. Shut up. The person who spoke was the one called second brother, Xiao Jicheng. Among Xiao Jihan's followers, he had the highest cultivation, and was also the one that Xiao Jihan appreciated the most. This was because he had Xiao Jihan's potential, which was ruthless, despicable, and shameless. It was just that he didn't hide it as deeply as Xiao Jihan. Second brother, I told you to shut up. Xiao Jicheng walked to the front and squeezed out a smile with an ugly expression, and said, Senior brother Jishan, Jun must have seen wrongly. This might be a misunderstanding. It's better not to search. Second brother? The guy just now didn't understand why second brother didn't allow them to search. They had clearly found everything, so what was there to be afraid of? Slap, I told you to shut up. Xiao Jicheng gave him a slap. He was a smart person, and he could see that Xiao Jishan was biased towards Chen Hao. He could also see the calmness in Xiao Jishan and Chen Hao's eyes. It was a calmness that indicated that victory was in their hands. Although he couldn't be sure that Xiao Jishan and Chen Hao had discovered their scheme, he also couldn't be sure that Chen Hao's cabinet definitely had something that belonged to them. It wasn't wise or necessary to take the risk of his brothers being expelled from the Xiao family to deal with Chen Hao alone. There were many ways to deal with Chen Hao, so there was no need to take a tumble here. Cowards, don't let me see you bullying my junior brother in the future. Scram. Xiao Jishan said coldly. He had always hated this bunch of people, but they were still disciples of the Xiao family and Xiao Jihan's accomplices. Therefore, even though he hated them, he couldn't really make a big deal out of it, because Xiao Jihan's position in the Xiao family wasn't as simple as being the number one genius of the Xiao family's Ji generation. Yes, we'll leave now. Xiao Jicheng hurriedly replied. I'll count to 3. If you don't disappear from my sight by then, don't blame me for being impolite. Xiao Jishan's eyes had a trace of a strange smile as he coldly said, 1, go. When Xiao Jishan counted to 1, although this bunch of scum was unwilling, they knew how powerful Xiao Jishan was, so they couldn't care less. The 2 guys on the ground were no exception. They quickly rushed to their own cabinets, opened them, and hurriedly put on their clothes before rushing out. When they opened their cabinets, Xiao Jishan, Chen Hao, and the crowd of onlookers immediately covered their noses. It was really fucking smelly. When they hurriedly put on their clothes and ran out, the sky-high stench had already filled the entire changing room. When the crowd saw the yellow sticky substance on those guys' snow-white pants and their buttocks, they instantly widened their eyes. They finally understood where the sky-high stench of feces came from, and all of them retched. Chen Hao also widened his eyes as he looked at Xiao Jishan, who had a strange smile on his face, speechless. Ha! Little junior brother, is it fun? Xiao Jishan laughed and said, let's go, we'll talk outside. Fuck, it's too smelly. See you at the door. After Xiao Jishan finished speaking, he ran to his own cabinets naked. Chen Hao and the other youths also quickly put on their clothes and rushed out. When Chen Hao and Xiao Jishan met at the door, Xiao Jishan immediately saw the unusually eye-catching number 99 on Chen Hao's chest. Although Xiao Jishan didn't pay much attention to the Xiao family's new recruits, He knew that the Xiao family had recruited a total of 99 disciples this year. He obviously knew what this number 99 meant. This made Xiao Jishan's eyeballs almost fall to the ground. In his heart, Chen Hao's performance just now was at least in the top 3, and most likely in first place. It couldn't be the last 99, right? This made him very puzzled. Could it be that this year's new recruits were all super geniuses? Senior brother, did you do it? Chen Hao couldn't help but ask. Of course. Junior brother, you're too kind. These scum framed you, and you still returned their things to them. How could you do that? If people respect me, I'll respect them tenfold. If a dog bites me, I'll kick the dog. Kind people are bullied, kind horses are ridden. Strength is the absolute truth. This is your senior brother's motto. The tall and strong Xiao Jishan couldn't understand and could only put it aside for now. He was too embarrassed to ask Chen Hao directly. He immediately returned to normal and patted Chen Hao's shoulder vigorously. Chen Hao muttered in his heart, the one with the bigger fist is the absolute truth. Yes, strength is the absolute truth. If a dog bites me, I'll kick the dog? No, if I'm strong enough, I'll kick the dog to death. I'm very grateful for everyone's support. I actually made it to the weekly clicker ranking. Thank you everyone, and thank Feng Ling for sparing no effort in creating this single chapter. I've never thanked him face to face, so I can only express it here. The third update will be at around 7 p.m. Lastly, please recommend, click, bookmark. Dark Mountain will write to repay everyone. Thank you. Chapter 18. Little Junior Brother, have you ever cultivated before? Little Junior Brother, your speed is really fast, almost catching up with Senior Brother. Xiao Jishan said with a bit of cheekiness. That speed is not just catching up, this brother is not as fast as Chen Hao at all. Little Junior Brother, your head is really hard, just like Bruiser's. Even Senior Brother here might not be as hard as you. What do you mean might not be? I'm 100% not as hard as him, okay? Chen Hao speechlessly said goodbye to Xiao Jishan and returned to the dormitory alone. After Pipsqueak and the others came back, they went to the cafeteria together. Xiang Hao, what's wrong with you? While eating, Pipsqueak and the girls noticed that Chen Hao's face showed a look of extreme pain. He didn't even bother to eat as he clutched his head with both hands. His eyes were full of confusion, as if full of confusion and a trace of fear from the bottom of his heart. I'm not feeling well, you guys eat slowly, I'll go back first. Chen Hao took advantage of his sobriety to finish the food as fast as he could and rushed out of the cafeteria under the surprised gaze of Pipsqueak and the others. At this moment, Chen Hao's heart was full of fear of the unknown. Perhaps because of the conflict just now, his head suffered a heavy blow that he couldn't bear. At this moment, although his head was only swollen and looked fine, after entering the cafeteria, he began to feel bursts of pain from time to time. This kind of pain was simply heart-wrenching, as if the depths of his soul were being crushed. Even the strong-willed Chen Hao couldn't maintain his calm at all. What caused Chen Hao to feel even more terrified was that, along with the waves of piercing pain, numerous unfamiliar scenes that didn't seem to belong to this world actually appeared in his mind, and they were even mixed with some information that Chen Hao was utterly unable to imagine or understand. What's going on? Did I hit my head just now? That's why I'm hallucinating? Moreover, the stabbing pain and images that seemed to come from the depths of his soul were happening more and more frequently, and more information was pouring into his mind. Chen Hao looked at Pipsqueak and the others in front of him and felt that they were all unreal. Chen Hao was very scared. He was sure that something was wrong with him, and it was very serious. However, the strange thing was, the seemingly absurd scene and information made Chen Hao feel that it was incomparably real. Bang! However, just as Chen Hao rushed out of the cafeteria's door, a figure suddenly crossed over. Before Chen Hao could react, they collided. Fuck your mother, are you blind? At the same time, an angry roar was heard. I'm sorry, I didn't. Chen Hao endured the piercing pain in his mind and said apologetically. However, before he could finish his words, a loud slap, without warning, landed heavily on Chen Hao's face. That crisp sound could be heard by everyone in the noisy cafeteria. Chen Hao fell to the ground with a bang. The slap was obviously infused with a strong yuan qi, causing scarlet blood to flow out from the corner of Chen Hao's mouth. Chen Hao's originally apologetic expression became abnormally cold at this moment. Especially when he saw the people around the other party, he emitted a monstrous anger. Gotcha! At this moment, Chen Hao's mind was once again filled with an even more violent pain. Suddenly, like a flash of lightning, the tide of memory fragments that accompanied it almost drowned Chen Hao. But at this time, he could only grit his teeth and slowly stand up. Sorry? Just saying sorry is enough? Kneel down and apologize to me, and I can spare you. Fuck your mother, you almost killed me. The person who came said arrogantly, domineering, and incomparably rude. Chen Hao didn't know this person, but the few guys standing beside him, Chen Hao recognized them. They were the scum from the bathhouse conflict. In a short time, the cafeteria entrance was surrounded by onlookers. When Di Lingyan and the others rushed out, they just happened to see Chen Hao slowly standing up with blood coming out of his nose and mouth. Xiang Hao? Di Lingyan's petite figure suddenly rushed to Chen Hao's side. She had never seen such a scene before, especially when she saw the blood coming out of Chen Hao's nose and mouth. She was scared, but she didn't know where the courage came from, but she still rushed out and looked at the arrogant guy. You? How can you hit people? Xiang Hao is not. Little girl, who do you think you are? I, Xiao Jichuan, hit people, is that something you can control? Get lost. Otherwise, I'll beat you up too. Xiao Jichuan waved his hand at Di Lingyan and said arrogantly, What's wrong, boy, you don't want to admit defeat? You can only blame yourself for bumping into me. It's not too late to kneel down and apologize, otherwise I can't control my fist. This kid is unlucky. How did he bump into Xiao Jichuan? What bump? Didn't you see that Xiao Jichuan did it on purpose? This kid offended Xiao Jichang and the others. Ji Fei saw them in the bathhouse just now. Xiao Jichang and the others ran out of the cafeteria covered in feces. It said that senior brother Ji Shan helped this kid deal with them. This kid is also very fierce. No way, right? Quickly tell us what's going on. Many people in the crowd whispered. Obviously, the conflict that happened in the bathhouse has already spread among the Shao family disciples. It could be seen how fast this kind of news spread. Even if those guys wanted to suppress it, it was impossible. One had to know that Chen Hao, a disciple of the Xiang generation who had just entered the sect and had yet to officially start cultivating, had managed to injure 2 martial warriors of the Ji generation. This was already explosive news. Furthermore, Xiao Jihan's lackeys were all bastards of the Ji generation, so how could it not cause a stir? Especially, including the ruthless Xiao Jichang, who was forced out of the bathhouse by Xiao Jishan with feces and urine all over the place. This was simply a super joke that the Xiao clan's outer court disciples rarely encountered in a few years. The Xiao family had never restrained the outer court disciples from fighting. As long as no one was killed, it didn't matter. The enormous pressure brought about by the desire to excel was also one of the best ways to encourage cultivation. No clan or sect would forbid it. The strong were respected, and the winner was king. If you don't want to admit defeat, then you have to work hard to get back at them. Challenges, duels, as long as both sides were willing, they could do it at any time, even if it was a life and death battle. It was also because of this that such fights were very common in the Xiao family. However, it was very rare for a second-grade martial artist like Xiao Jichuan to bully a newcomer who had just entered the sect. How could an ordinary person have the nerve to do such a despicable thing? It was obvious that they were bullying others. It was also because of this that Xiao Jichang and the others would find an excuse to teach Chen Hao a lesson. Xiao Jichuan, who was a pervert in the Xiao family, was a fool that Xiao Jichang and the others used. Roar! When the sharp pain in his head finally disappeared, Chen Hao pushed away Di Ling Air beside him, let out a beast-like roar, and suddenly rushed towards Xiao Jichuan. Be careful of this brat's head, bang! By the time Xiao Jichang warned, it was already too late. Chen Hao was like a roaring beast, suddenly bouncing up. However, this time, Chen Hao did not use his head. After all, there was a big problem with his head at this moment, so how could he dare to use it? Although Chen Hao did not practice any martial arts and didn't even know the basic posture of a fist, The speed of his clenched fist was astonishing. His fist bombarded the arrogant Xiao Jichuan's face as he waited for Chen Hao to kneel and beg for mercy. Bang 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 bang. In an instant, 4 punches landed on Xiao Jichuan's face, causing blood to splatter everywhere. Fuck your mother. Xiao Jichuan's vision turned black and his head became dizzy. After a short moment, he finally sobered up and let out a furious roar. Gathering the origin energy in his body, he suddenly grabbed Chen Hao's neck in a faint red light. He, who was a head taller than Chen Hao, directly lifted Chen Hao up like he was lifting up a chick. His other hand mercilessly started to fiercely slap Chen Hao's face. Seeing that Chen Hao was about to receive the cruelest beating he had ever received in his life, the iron-like force around his neck made it hard for Chen Hao to breathe. No matter how Chen Hao struggled, he could not touch the other party's body. Let him go! Let him go! Di Lingyan screamed in horror. Listening to Di Lingyan's voice, looking at Xiao Jichuan's sinister eyes, the feeling of suffocation, the sharp pain on his face and the splashing blood from his nose and mouth. At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly felt that the whole world had stopped. The information that came with the sharp pain in his head, the information that he didn't have time to digest, suddenly appeared in his mind with incomparable clarity. Chen Hao's hands suddenly reached for his neck and pressed down on Xiao Jichuan's wrists. When Xiao Jichuan's slap landed on his face again, Chen Hao's hands and neck suddenly pressed down with force. At the same time, his leg that was suspended in the air quickly kicked out. The tip of his foot was straight, and he used all the strength in his body. Bang! Almost at the same time as the slap, Chen Hao's foot heavily kicked between Xiao Jichuan's legs. A scream came out from Xiao Jichuan's mouth. At the same time, Xiao Jichuan suddenly let go of Chen Hao and bent down, both hands wanting to cover his crotch where the sharp pain came from. Unfortunately, bang! What everyone didn't expect and didn't have time to react was that Chen Hao, who landed on the ground, actually smoothly raised his hands high and suddenly pressed down on the bent Xiao Jichuan's head. At the same time, Chen Hao violently raised his knee. Xiao Jichuan's scream suddenly disappeared and directly curled up on the ground, falling unconscious. There were no more sounds, his face was covered in blood, and his nose turned into a pig's nose. Tell Xiao Jihan, if he has the guts, then fight me fair and square. Everything he did to me, in the Xiao family's outer court disciple competition half a year later, I will make him pay for it all. Also, you dogs should have the awareness of your dog teeth being beaten into your stomach. If you don't accept it, then come at me, your end will be the same as his. Chen Hao's eyes were cold, and his voice was cold. After he finished speaking, he nodded to the dazed Di Lingyan and quickly left. Silence, it was strangely silent. No one would have thought that Chen Hao, a disciple of the Xiao clan who had just entered the Xiao clan, would have such astonishing battle prowess. Even Xiao Jichang and the others who had seen Chen Hao's speed and iron head technique did not expect this. Xiao Jichuan was clearly under the complete control of Xiao Jichuan, but he instantly turned the situation around. That tricky crotch kicked and violent knee strike directly turned Xiao Jichuan, who was a second-grade martial warrior, into a pig's head. He was unconscious, and his family jewels were probably severely injured. Of course, the most important thing was Chen Hao's strange and ruthless kick, but what was even more shocking was Chen Hao's words before he left, words that directly targeted Xiao Jihan. This sentence was like a bomb, causing everyone to feel dizzy and disoriented. Who was Xiao Jihan? The #1 expert of the Ji generation, a 7th-grade martial warrior. Third update, a total of 10,000 words. Thank you very much for everyone's support. Brothers and sisters who still have a recommendation ticket, please vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you. Chen Hao is about to awaken. Brothers and sisters, with some more favorites, recommendations, and clicks, he is really about to awaken. Oh, __intersection. Oh. Chapter 19. So ruthless. But this kid is obviously crazy. He actually dared to challenge Xiao Jihan. Oh my god. Isn't he courting death? So he offended Xiao Jihan. No wonder these guys are looking for trouble with him. This kid is so fierce. How is he so powerful? So what if he's fierce? He offended Xiao Jihan. I think he's done for. Chen Hao suppressed the shock and pain in his heart and returned to the dormitory as fast as he could. Challenge Xiao Jihan directly. Chen Hao was not stupid. He naturally knew how powerful Xiao Jihan was and that he had almost no chance of winning. However, he had no choice but to say that under such circumstances, only by doing so could he temporarily intimidate Xiao Jichang and the others. Otherwise, he believed that he would not be able to get rid of Xiao Jichang and the others. What he would have to face next would probably be a group beating. However, he did not have the time. The pain and changes in his mind made him unable to hold on for even a second. The frequency of the pain in his mind increased from once every 2 to 3 minutes to once every few seconds. From individual images to a series of memories, they surged into Chen Hao's mind at an increasing rate. Chen Hao did not know what was wrong with his head. This made him fearful, but it also made him excited. When he was fighting with Xiao Jichuan, it was because of these strange fragments of information that surged into his mind that he was able to unleash his crotch-kicked and violent knee strike. Chen Hao, who was completely relying on his willpower to maintain a trace of consciousness, finally could not hold on any longer after returning to the dormitory. He collapsed on his bed and hugged his head with both hands as he groaned in extreme pain. The heart-wrenching pain in the depths of his soul and the massive amount of information suddenly surged out like a river bursting through a dam, 12 years old. There were only a few days before Chen Hao turned 12. Chen Hao did not know at all that the pictures and information in his head were not illusions but real existences in another world. The microbe chip that carried the lifelong memories of Li Yuan, the mad scientist who pursued immortality, had already grown into Chen Hao's brain. Even without the accident, the microbe chip would have been activated on its own in a few days when Chen Hao turned 12 and started to merge the memories. But now, because Chen Hao had suffered a severe blow to his head, something that was supposed to happen a few days later had happened ahead of time. Earth, Huaxia, Li Yuan, who pursued immortality, ancient martial arts, cultivation, advanced technology, deep-sea naked corpses, cloned baby boys, memory chips, Li Yuan, the mad scientist who had set foot on the peak of Earth in many fields, had a magnificent and splendid life. Under Chen Hao's accident, the memories that should have been merged in chronological order had arrived without any pattern and occupied all of Chen Hao's mind. Nobody could have imagined that the experiment that had announced the death of the mad scientist Li Yuan on Earth would be restarted 12 years later on the boundless continent, the microbe chip that contained Li Yuan's lifelong memories. The reason why Li Yuan dared to make such a bold and crazy attempt and claimed that a second Li Yuan would be born on Earth and achieve true immortality was definitely not as simple as memory merging. Not only did the memory chip integrate all of Li Yuan's memories, it also created an artificial intelligence that was exactly the same as Li Yuan. At that time, the baby boy, which was Chen Hao, would have been in a state of deep sleep in the nutrient solution if the mysterious woman's body hadn't mutated when the memory chip was implanted. He would have been like a blank piece of paper and would have had no experience. 12 years later, when his brain cells matured, the intelligent brain would have woken up, the memory chip would have been activated, and the real fusion would have begun. The Chen Hao that was born from the fusion would have indeed become Li Yuan. This was because Chen Hao's perfect body would have been controlled by Li Yuan's intelligent brain, and the memories he possessed would have completely belonged to Li Yuan. However, because of the explosion caused by the mysterious woman's body, the baby boy Chen Hao arrived at another world, the boundless continent. Chen Hao grew up like an ordinary child for 12 years. He already had 12 years of experience and 12 years of memories. Moreover, the difficult living environment allowed Chen Hao to taste the joys and sorrows of life. He matured much earlier than ordinary teenagers, and his mind was unusually firm. It was no longer possible for him to be a blank piece of paper that could be splashed with ink. Because of that, when the memory chip was accidentally activated, the special soul made of Li Yuan's memories and the intelligent brain would have clashed violently with Chen Hao's independent soul. It was also because of that the fusion that shouldn't have caused any pain caused Chen Hao to sink into boundless agony. This was a battle between Chen Hao and Li Yuan. Two tigers couldn't live on the same mountain. One of them would inevitably be devoured by the other. If Chen Hao won, Chen Hao would still be Chen Hao. The only difference was that he would receive Li Yuan's magnificent memories, which would become his own inherent wealth of knowledge. If Li Yuan won, Chen Hao's soul would vanish into thin air. From then on, he would no longer be Chen Hao, but the madman Li Yuan on Earth. Chen Hao's 12 years of experience would also become an insignificant memory for Li Yuan. Without a doubt, this was rather cruel for Chen Hao. It was equivalent to a soul that had been sleeping in his head for 12 years suddenly awakening and was now trying to take over his body. Who would win and who would lose? I've succeeded. Immortality. I, Li Yuan, have finally succeeded. When the intelligent brain was completely awakened and the memory chip was truly activated, the stabbing pain in the depths of Chen Hao's head no longer had any gaps. It was also at this moment that a voice filled with pleasant surprise suddenly laughed and said in Chen Hao's head. That voice was arrogant and unruly, filled with a sense of arrogance that looked down on the world. The intelligent brain was completely equivalent to Li Yuan's intelligent brain. In other words, Li Yuan had finally completely awakened. At this moment, to Li Yuan's great surprise, a voice filled with anger and unwillingness actually rang out. How could this be? The intelligent brain that had all of Li Yuan's memories could not react for a moment. After all, when it was implanted into Chen Hao's head, it had already entered a state of deep sleep. It was completely unaware of the changes that happened to the mysterious woman's body. His memories stopped at the time when the memory chip was condensed. It was impossible for him to know about the changes that happened later. In his mind, since he had awakened at this moment, the experiment had already followed the expected steps and was infinitely close to success. Right now, he did not need to do anything at all. He only needed to patiently wait for his memories to completely merge with the brain of this new body. Then Li Yuan would complete the last step. He, Li Yuan, would have the perfect genes and obtain true immortality. This step was the easiest of all the steps. It was like writing one's memories on a piece of white paper. There was no difficulty at all. But at this moment, why did another voice suddenly come out? While Li Yuan was talking, the stabbing pain in the depths of his soul broke out just like what had happened to Chen Hao. Just like Chen Hao, Li Yuan also began to obtain some memories that belonged to Chen Hao. Memories that did not belong to Earth at all. How is this possible? How is this possible? How can I have memories? How did I end up on this strange planet? Li Yuan, who was originally full of excitement, joy, and arrogance, understood his current situation from the memories he had obtained. Without a doubt, the body that he had cultivated was not sleeping in the nutrient solution. Instead, it had experienced 12 years of growth. What was even more astonishing was that it was not on Earth, but in a world that Li Yuan did not even know about. This alone was enough to shock Li Yuan, not to mention, Li Yuan knew better than anyone that this body had formed its own consciousness. In other words, it had an independent soul. What did this mean? It meant that the simplest and least risky step would become the most difficult and dangerous step. My name is Chen Hao. What do you want to do? Please leave my body. Chen Hao. Your body? I, Li Yuan, spent so much effort to create this body, and you say it's your body? Kid, do you know what you're saying? Let me tell you, I am you and you are me. You were created by me. Don't try to resist. You only have 12 years of consciousness. You can't stop me at all. I am the owner of this body. Nonsense. You monster, get out of my body. Chen Hao roared in horror. I, Li Yuan, have pursued immortality all my life. Can't I pass it just because of this little accident? Go to hell. Li Yuan said arrogantly, full of unwillingness. His life's work and pursuit could not be wasted no matter what. So what if he had formed an independent soul with his own consciousness? He did not believe that with his decades of memories, he could not swallow Chen Hao, who only had 12 years of memories. Boom, 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 along with Li Yuan's words, a terrifying rumbling sound that sounded like an avalanche began to erupt in Chen Hao's mind. Li Yuan urged the sea of memories to crazily suppress Chen Hao. The storm of the fusion of souls and memories was like a bomb exploding in Chen Hao's mind. No, to be precise, it was exploding in the minds of both of them. Whether it was Chen Hao or Li Yuan, they were both enduring unimaginable pain. That kind of pain was crushing their souls into pieces. If it were a normal person, they would rather die than endure such inhumane torture. However, Chen Hao and Li Yuan both endured it, because they both had their own obsessions. Death wasn't scary, but Chen Hao definitely couldn't die. Even though his soul felt like it was being torn apart, he clenched his teeth and endured the intense pain in his mind, as well as the invasion of the sea of information. He held on to his last bit of obsessions and kept himself awake. Just like the first time he fell into the illusion of calligraphy at Elder Zhao's place, he would not allow himself to fall into a coma no matter what. Because if he fell into a coma, it might mean that he would never be able to wake up again. He was already his parents' and siblings' only hope and spiritual support. At this moment, if anything happened to him, how could his family bear it? To become strong, to protect his family, to let them live a good life, to never be bullied by anyone. That was his determination, his obsessions. Now, he had successfully taken a step forward. How could he be destroyed by Li Yuan before his happiness was about to arrive? Chapter 20. Compared to Chen Hao, Li Yuan was more aware of what this battle between souls meant. Madman Li Yuan was a rare genius who had reached the pinnacle of science at the age of 30. When he felt his body aging, he devoted all his efforts to the pursuit of immortality, using science to change his physical fitness. He spent 5 years practicing all the ancient Chinese martial arts he had collected to the extreme, but he found that he could not achieve immortality. Thus, he began to practice Taoism. But what was more regrettable was that although he had collected many Taoist techniques from countless mysterious ancient ruins in China, the earth was no longer suitable for practicing Taoism because it was full of high-tech radiation. But Li Yuan did not give up. He began to explore the deep sea, trying to find another way to achieve immortality. Fortunately and coincidentally, he had discovered the lifelike body of a woman that had existed for tens of thousands of years. That was how Chen Hao's body, which was almost perfect and whose cells were unbelievably vigorous, could be created. Once he successfully melted into it, although he might not be immortal in the true sense, he would definitely live a long life. It was possible for him to live 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or even longer. Now that he had reached the final step, how could Li Yuan give up? It was precisely because of their respective obsessions that both of them were able to grit their teeth and endure this inhumane pain. Especially Chen Hao. Compared to the arrogant and insufferably arrogant Li Yuan, he was too immature, and the amount of memories he possessed was simply incomparable to Li Yuan's. Therefore, Chen Hao had to fuse with more memories, which also meant that the pain he had to endure was even greater. As time passed, Chen Hao fell into a completely passive situation. Under Li Yuan's urging of memory integration, even if Chen Hao had a strong will, he began to be unable to bear it and was on the verge of collapse again and again. However, every time he was about to lose consciousness, there would be a strange roar in the depths of his soul, like the evening drum and morning bell, which would magically awaken his mind. After awakening, it would disappear silently, as if it had never appeared. This cycle repeated countless times. Under the situation of one side being weakened and the other side being strengthened, Li Yuan's original absolute advantage began to tilt. Gradually, the weaker Chen Hao gained the upper hand. Rumble. As time passed, Chen Hao obtained more and more memories. When all of Li Yuan's memories appeared in his mind and were completely connected, his mind suddenly exploded with a thunderous roar. In an instant, all of the pain suddenly disappeared. Chen Hao felt a kind of joy that he had never experienced before. It was a spiritual joy, as if he had been reborn. Chen Hao could clearly feel that his mind had undergone an extremely mysterious and subtle change. At the same time, he clearly realized what kind of existence he was. Chen Hao didn't know that at this moment, in the depths of his soul, there was an imperceptible sigh of relief, as if it had lost all its strength, and then it hid in the depths of Chen Hao's soul and didn't move again. Li Yuan, it's me. I'm Chen Hao. Father and mother never lied to me, Chen Hao murmured in his heart as he thought of his father, who was crippled because of him, and his mother, who worked day and night, who was haggard. At this moment, he finally understood what kind of existence he was. Just as Li Yuan said, he was Li Yuan, and Li Yuan was him. If there were no accidents, Chen Hao wouldn't exist at all. And now he had won. This victory made Chen Hao feel a little baffled. Because at this moment, he had completely merged with Li Yuan. He was very clear that he had been on the verge of destruction many times, but he had miraculously woken up. Chen Hao himself was completely unaware of the roar that sounded like the evening drum and morning bell. Chen Hao could only use luck to describe his victory. He had completely merged with Li Yuan's special soul, and he had gained dominance. Li Yuan was him, but he was Chen Hao. Dong, after another hour, when the melodious sound of the bell rang, Chen Hao, who was immersed in digesting the memories, slowly opened his eyes. 2 rays of light flashed in his eyes. Jumping out of bed, he simply washed up and walked out of the dormitory. Xiang Hao, are you okay? When we came back last night, you seemed to have fallen asleep, and we couldn't wake you up. When Chen Hao walked out of the dormitory, Di Ling Er and the others just happened to walk out of the dormitory as well. They looked at Chen Hao, who seemed a little strange. Di Ling Er looked at the Chen Hao in front of her and felt that there was a big difference, but she couldn't tell exactly what was different. In short, there was something different, especially Chen Hao's eyes. They were like 2 deep black whirlpools, and when they looked at each other slightly, Di Ling Er felt like she was falling into them. It's probably because I overused my brain. I remembered too many words yesterday, so I had a terrible headache. I also fought 2 fights, so I'm exhausted. I'm fine now. Chen Hao, who had never lied, actually opened his mouth and said naturally. After saying that, even Chen Hao was a little surprised. The corner of his mouth showed a trace of helplessness as he shook his head. It seems that even after the 2 souls merged, Chen Hao was still greatly affected by the fusion of souls. His knowledge, vision, wisdom, experience, and even his temperament had naturally undergone a huge change. Just like the surrounding environment, although it hasn't changed in the slightest, the feeling it brings to Chen Hao has completely changed. Originally, Di Lingo was the same age as him, but in Chen Hao's eyes, she was a bit like a little girl. At this moment, another girl named Xiao Xiangli looked at Chen Hao curiously and asked, Xiang Hao, why did those people bully you? I don't know. It's a pity that my strength is too weak. All right, let's go quickly. Don't be late. Chen Hao's expression did not change as he said calmly. However, his pitch-black eyes inadvertently lit up. You should be careful. On the way back last night, we heard that those people often bully people. Since they suffered a loss, they definitely won't let it go so easily. Also, did Xiao Jihan order them to do it? Are you really going to challenge Xiao Jihan in the Xiao family's outer disciple competition half a year later? Di Ling'er asked. Since I said it, of course it's true. You don't have to worry about this. Chen Hao took a light breath and said in a deep voice. Chen Hao, who had been enduring silently, was now filled with a strong fighting spirit. When he said that he wanted to challenge Xiao Jihan, it was indeed because he had no choice and did not have the slightest confidence. After all, Xiao Jihan was a 7th-grade martial warrior and was much stronger than him. When facing Xiao Jichuan, Chen Hao only had an absolute advantage in speed, but his strength was far inferior. Otherwise, he would not have been in danger with Xiao Jichuan's hand around his neck. Xiao Jichuan was only a 2nd-grade martial warrior. Compared to Xiao Jihan, there was a difference of 5 grades. How strong was Xiao Jihan? Furthermore, when he was fighting with Xiao Jichuan, if it were not for the memory fragments that entered his mind and allowed him to launch a sharp and effective attack, Chen Hao would have been in great danger, but now, Chen Hao was fearless. There were many things that Chen Hao could not see through or understand. However, at this moment, he was clear that he, Chen Hao, was not someone that a clown like Xiao Jihan could bully. What did it mean for Elder Xiao to think highly of him and teach him the 7th-grade secret art of longevity? It meant that Elder Xiao valued him greatly. Elder Xiao's position in the Xiao family was incomparably revered. Just based on this point, Xiao Jihan could not do anything to him. Of course, Chen Hao did not want to rely on Elder Xiao to threaten Xiao Jihan. However, with his relationship with Elder Xiao, it was impossible for him to be expelled from the Xiao family. This point alone was enough. Furthermore, Chen Hao now possessed the ancient Chinese martial arts that Li Yuan had cultivated in order to pursue immortality. In half a year's time, with his innate talent, he was able to display the advantage of his speed. Then, with another half a year of bitter training in the powerful ancient martial arts, with his speed and the ingenuity of his moves, coupled with his perfect body's powerful resistance, what could a 7th-grade martial warrior do? It was fine if he did not make a sound, but he would amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Chen Hao wanted to let Xiao Jihan and everyone else who had bullied him know that he, Chen Hao, was not a soft persimmon that anyone could bully. P.S. There's a third update. Dark Mountain is writing in a dark room all day long. Friends who are reading Proud Heaven, please log into your Chidian account and help me read, save, and recommend the chapters. The results of my new book depend on everyone. Your support is the greatest motivation for Dark Mountain to write. Please, please. Chapter 21. Xiao Family, Martial Arts Practice Field. Xiao Xianghao is here. He Xiao Xianghao? Isn't he the poor kid who passed the test in advance? Yes, I really couldn't tell that he was so powerful. He even seriously injured a 2nd-grade martial warrior. He was even more powerful at the bathhouse yesterday. He injured 2 martial warriors with his head. It said that those people are Xiao Jihan's men. He just entered the Xiao family, so how did he offend such an amazing person like Xiao Jihan? How strange. You don't know, right? According to reliable sources, it's because of senior sister Ji Yan. Senior sister Ji Yan is the #1 beauty of the Ji generation and is senior brother Ji Han's favorite. Other than us newcomers, everyone knows that. However, this poor kid, Xiao Xianghao, got lucky and was chosen by the Xiao family's patriarch just like senior sister Ji Yan. They were taught by old master Xiao alone. It said that, this poor kid didn't give senior brother Ji Han any face yesterday. It's like a toad lusting after a swan's meat. He wants to compete with senior brother Ji Han for senior sister Ji Yan. Compete with senior sister Ji Yan? The corners of Chen Hao's mouth twitched. He really didn't expect that the 2 conflicts that happened yesterday would spread among the Xiao family's disciples in just one night. Not only that, even rumors and gossip had spread. In the past, Chen Hao would definitely feel uncomfortable facing the gazes on him, but now, Chen Hao didn't feel any pressure at all. Even his expression didn't change at all. In the past, Li Yuan was an amazing person who caused a sensation all over the world. No matter where he went, he was the center of attention. This level of attention was a piece of cake for him. Chen Hao, who had fused with Li Yuan's soul, not only possessed all of Li Yuan's memories, but he had also unknowingly inherited some of Li Yuan's personality. It could be said that the current Chen Hao was no longer the Chen Hao of the past, but the Chen Hao who had been reborn from the ashes. Chen Hao wasn't in the mood to pay attention to those discussions. All he wanted to do was to devote himself to cultivation. Strength was everything. Chen Hao believed that in the near future, everything that Xiao Jihan had done to him would be reduced to dust like a chicken or a dog. Whether it was the former Chen Hao or Li Yuan, who had been integrated by Chen Hao, they were all naturally arrogant people. Therefore, after the morning exercise began, Chen Hao did not hold back and devoted himself to cultivation. What surprised Chen Hao was that the basic footwork, fist, and leg techniques taught by instructor Xiao Qianrui were extremely similar to the ancient Chinese martial arts in his mind. In fact, Chen Hao could clearly tell that the ancient Chinese martial arts were more systematic and detailed, far more powerful than what Xiao Qianrui taught him. However, even if Chen Hao's physical fitness was very strong, it was impossible for him to reap without sowing. The memories that Li Yuan possessed were like an extensive and profound martial arts encyclopedia. If he wanted them to become his own ability, he had to practice hard. Therefore, to the current Chen Hao, he was actually equivalent to a Chinese ancient martial arts expert being reborn. Everything had to start from the beginning. As for the secret cultivation manuals in Li Yuan's mind, be it Chen Hao or Li Yuan in the past, they were all illusory things to them. It was impossible to judge whether the cultivation technique was strong or not. The reason was simple. Back on Earth, Li Yuan had only tried to cultivate, but he could not even take the first step. It was as if the secret cultivation manuals that he had painstakingly obtained from the ancient Chinese ruins were myths. He could see them, but he could not touch them. Instructor Xiao Qianrui, who was holding a whip in his hand and ready to whip at any time, widened his eyes. Out of the 33 disciples, he had spent most of his time staring at Chen Hao. As long as there was something wrong with him, he would definitely whip him. Unfortunately, what made him depressed was that Chen Hao had done every action so well that he did not even have the chance to nitpick. It was not that Chen Hao had done it perfectly, but compared to the other disciples, he was definitely outstanding. If such a person had to be whipped, it would really be inexcusable. As time went by, Xiao Qianrui looked at Chen Hao's determined, persistent, meticulous, and undistracted figure. Gradually, a sense of uneasiness grew from the depths of his heart. Yesterday, Chen Hao had injured 3 martial warriors. In the eyes of Xiao Qianrui and the other masters, it was all because of Chen Hao's innate iron head and innate speed, as well as the 3 guys' underestimation of their opponent. If it was a real duel, how could Chen Hao be a match for the 3 of them? But now, what he had just imparted to Chen Hao was only something that Chen Hao had come into contact with for the first time. However, Chen Hao seemed to have grasped the essence of it. His posture was on point, and even his aura contained the essence of each move. It was as if he had reached the state of unity of essence, energy, and spirit that only martial warriors could achieve. What kind of amazing talent was this? Xiao Qianrui's hand that was holding the whip trembled slightly. He seemed to be deep in thought, and finally turned his gaze to the other disciples. A moment later, the sound of whips and shouts of reprimanding erupted. There was simply no comparison. Was Xiao Jihan really capable of suppressing such a genius? Xiao Jihan was not afraid, but Xiao Qianrui was. Especially now that Chen Hao was valued by Old Man Xiao. Even though Old Man Xiao had never asked about the cultivation of the Xiao family disciples and would definitely not care if he suppressed Chen Hao, it was impossible to kill him with one slap. Chen Hao was definitely the kind of genius that would rise if he could not be killed with one slap. Hey, 3 basic movement techniques, 3 basic fist techniques, and 3 basic leg techniques. Chen Hao and the others had already cultivated for nearly an hour and a half since the beginning of their morning practice. They were about to end their morning practice. At this moment, all of them were drenched in sweat. Most of the youths were exhausted, but under the deterrence of Xiao Qianrui's whip, no one dared to slack off. Chen Hao was also drenched in sweat, and his clothes were also soaked in sweat. However, unlike the other youths, Chen Hao, who had just started cultivating for the first time, felt that he was gradually entering the best state. His body was abnormally full of energy, and the speed and strength of his punches and kicks did not show any signs of weakening. Instead, as his proficiency increased, his movements became smoother and more natural. There are still 10 minutes left. Brace yourselves. Xiao Qianrui shouted along with the crisp and clear sound of the whip. He glanced at the meticulous Chen Hao from time to time, and his heart grew more and more shocked. In just over an hour of adapting to his strength, speed, and connection, he had reached a level that ordinary disciples would not be able to achieve even after cultivating for a month. In particular, his talent in speed was no small matter. In terms of speed, Chen Hao had definitely reached the level of a 9th-grade martial warrior. This was truly a little abnormal. As soon as Xiao Qianrui's voice fell, his gaze swept across the crowd. Suddenly, his expression changed, and a hint of embarrassment appeared on his face. At the entrance of the martial arts arena, a few figures were slowly walking toward the group he was in. A handsome young man with a slight curl of his lips and a cold and arrogant aura walked at the front. Half a step behind him, there were several domineering and arrogant youths clustered around him. One of them had a snow-white bandage wrapped around his right wrist and hung around his neck. There was another who had a rather strange and funny walking posture. His legs were like a tortoise's as he walked forward with his legs crossed, as if he was afraid of squeezing something between his legs. The cold and arrogant youth was none other than Xiao Jihan. The one with his arm in a sling was naturally Xiao Jitao, whose wrist had been broken by Chen Hao's born iron head. The one who looked like a tortoise was Xiao Jichuan, whose balls had almost been broken by Chen Hao's kick. The appearance of these people immediately attracted the attention of most people in the martial arts arena. The 3 classes of the Xiang generation, who were cultivating under the restrictions of their instructors, were still fine. However, some of the disciples of the Ji and Shi generations who were cultivating freely in the morning stopped and swarmed over to Xiao Jihan and the others. Senior brother Jihan. Senior brother Jihan. Senior brother Jihan, my idol? You have to teach that kid a lesson. Who does he think he is? How dare he provoke senior brother Jihan's dignity? That's right, that's right. Is senior brother Jihan someone that a lucky brat like him can challenge? All of them greeted Xiao Jihan with fervent gazes, reverence, and a trace of fear. Some of the people who fawned over him added fuel to the fire. They couldn't wait to make Xiao Jihan fly into a rage and teach Chen Hao, who had an exaggerated opinion of his own abilities, a ruthless lesson. Everyone knew very well why Xiao Jihan had brought his lackeys there. It had to be said that there were probably not many outer sect disciples in the Xiao family who did not know about Chen Hao. Yesterday's conflict was definitely explosive news. It had already spread among the disciples of the Xiang and Ji generations. Even many of the older disciples of the Shi generation knew about it. As for the people of the Ji and Shi generations who were still cultivating in the same martial arts arena as the Xiang generation, they were obviously miserable people with poor aptitudes. Xiao Jihan naturally would not bully these disciples who were not a threat at all. He would even take care of them sometimes. Even his lackeys did the same. The reason was naturally to establish his prestige and reputation among the outer sect disciples of the Xiao family. It had to be said that he had done it. Although many people hated Xiao Jihan had even more admirers in the Xiao family. It was a pity that the pedantic people did not understand Xiao Jihan's methods. Chen Hao naturally noticed such a huge commotion immediately. However, Chen Hao did not stop. Even his expression did not change in the slightest. Just like Lil Ling'er and the other disciples of the Xiang generation, he kept repeating the basic skills that he had just learned. When Xiao Jihan arrived at the back of Chen Hao's formation, his eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. He glanced at instructor Xiao Qianrui, who was in front of the formation, and then looked at the lively Chen Hao, who did not have any whip marks on his body. He snorted and said, "Instructor Ru, the morning training is about to end, right?" Xiao Qianrui could naturally hear the dissatisfaction in Xiao Jihan's words. However, he, who had already made his choice, could only look at Xiao Jihan awkwardly and quickly walk to his side. There are still 10 minutes left. Sorry, Xiao Qianrui did not say much. He only used his eyes to signal Xiao Jihan to look at Chen Hao. He did not dare to offend Chen Hao, and he did not dare to offend Xiao Jihan even more. As long as Xiao Jihan saw Chen Hao's current state clearly, he would naturally understand that it was not that he did not want to suppress Chen Hao, but that he could not find any fault with Chen Hao. None of the 99 disciples of the Xiang generation in the 3 classes did better than Chen Hao. Third update, explosive. Do you still have any recommendation tickets? Our recommendations are sincere, very little. After reading this, please help Wushan by bookmarking and recommending. Please. Chapter 22. Xiao Jihan narrowed his eyes and stared at Chen Hao as he said coldly, "It's all right. You're very suitable to be an instructor for newcomers. I believe you'll work until you're old." A trace of a bitter smile appeared on the corners of Xiao Qianrui's mouth when he heard Xiao Jihan's words. It was very obvious that the lucrative position that Xiao Jihan and the 6th elder had promised him had gone down the drain. Unless his cultivation could make another breakthrough, otherwise, he would probably die of old age in his position as a new instructor. Dong. When the melodious bell rang, Xiao Qianrui and the instructors of the other 2 classes announced the end of the morning exercise at the same time. The disciples of the Xiang generation who had noticed Xiao Jihan's arrival immediately swarmed over. Obviously, everyone knew that a good show was about to begin. Xiang Hao? Lil Ling'er, who was already next to Chen Hao, called out with a worried expression. "Move aside. I don't want to implicate you and get bitten by a mad dog," Chen Hao said calmly. He waved his hand to wipe off the sweat on his forehead and looked at Xiao Jihan and the others who were slowly walking toward him. "How is it? I told you that this poor kid is going to suffer. He's really fast." So this is the #1 expert of the Ji generation, senior brother Xiao Jihan. He's so cool. Sure, When Xiao Jihan slowly walked toward Chen Hao like a moon surrounded by stars, the surrounding crowd discussed animatedly. 99% of them were waiting to watch a good show. Even the other two instructors pretended that they did not see anything and left quickly. Even though their cultivation was much higher than Xiao Jihan's status in the Xiao family was very special. However, Xiao Jihan's special status in the Xiao family, especially his friendship with the sixth elder, was not something they could control. Xiao Qianrui paused for a moment, shook his head helplessly, and turned to leave. Not suppressing Chen Hao was already the limit of what he could do. If he continued to help Chen Hao, he was afraid that he would not just be an instructor for newcomers until he was old. He might not even have a good ending. Therefore, Xiao Qianrui could only choose to leave. As Xiao Jihan slowly walked closer, the chattering crowd finally quieted down. Everyone looked at Chen Hao, who was looking straight at Xiao Jihan without any change in expression. Just this calmness alone was enough to make most people feel ashamed of their inferiority. What surprised everyone even more was that Chen Hao's black, deep eyes did not show the slightest bit of fear. Instead, they were like two sharp swords, showing off their sharpness and filled with a domineering and powerful fighting spirit. This shocked all the Ji and Shi generation disciples who knew how powerful Chen Hao was. At the same time, they couldn't help but admire Chen Hao's courage. As the saying went, the ignorant are fearless, and the newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. This was undoubtedly the case for Chen Hao. Was that really the case? Of course not. If it was the original Chen Hao, it could be said that the ignorant were fearless. However, after merging with Li Yuan's soul, Chen Hao understood himself very well. His way of looking at problems was far from what the previous Chen Hao could compare to. He did not dare to say that he could see everything clearly, but at least he was much better than a snobbish brat like Xiao Jihan. It might be a little funny to say that. After all, Chen Hao was only 12 years old, 4 years younger than Xiao Jihan. However, that was the truth. Although Chen Hao still had the body of a 12-year-old, his soul could not be measured by a 12-year-old. Otherwise, Chen Hao would not have felt that Lil Ling was a little girl. At this moment, if their lives were threatened, both Chen Hao, who knew how to endure, and Li Yuan, who looked down on the world, would choose to endure. They would definitely not arrogantly face Xiao Jihan. The reason why Chen Hao was fearless was because he knew very well that as long as Xiao Jihan was not an idiot, he would definitely not kill him in such a situation. Not to mention other reasons, he did not dare to do so because of old man Xiao. Chen Hao could even guess Xiao Jihan's motive for coming here personally. Furthermore, that was exactly what he wanted. Therefore, he had to show off his abilities and go tit for tat. How could Chen Hao let go of someone who wanted to kill him for some inexplicable reason? Even if Chen Hao was kind-hearted, how could the arrogant madman Li Yuan let him go? Xiao Xianghao, right? I heard that you want to challenge me? After the two of them stared at each other for half a minute, a dark green light flashed in Xiao Jihan's eyes. He finally could not hold it in any longer and curled his lips into what he thought was a very dashing evil smile. Are you afraid? Afraid? You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you think a lowly commoner like you is worthy of making our boss afraid? Brat, have you gone crazy from wanting to be famous? Pa. Xiao Jichuan, who was spreading his legs like a tortoise, said insolently, You're just a dog. I'm talking to your boss. Who are you to interrupt? Chen Hao said disdainfully, What did you say? Xiao Jichuan was furious. Just as Xiao Jichuan was about to flip out, Xiao Jihan gently raised his hand and stopped him. His eyes contained a hint of viciousness as he stared at Chen Hao and said, Xiao Xianghao, although you don't have the right to challenge me, I promise you. However, I only agree to a battle to the death. Do you dare? Hua, as Xiao Jihan said the words, battle to the death, the crowd went into an uproar. Especially the Ji and Shi generation disciples, they were even more shocked. Although they knew that Xiao Jihan was a ruthless person and that many people had been crippled by him in the past, they did not expect him to be so ruthless this time. A battle to the death. Only when the conflict was irreconcilable to the point of no return would a battle to the death. There was no victory or defeat, only life and death. As long as both parties were willing, The battle would only end when one party died. This was the most ruthless of the Xiao family's challenges. And Xiao Jihan actually wanted to kill Qin Hao. Xiang Hao, don't. Lil Linger and the other girls, who were standing behind Qin Hao, immediately tried to stop him. Especially Lil Ling, she could not help but pull on Qin Hao's arm. Qin Hao, who was originally fearless, frowned at this moment. His chest heaved up and down violently, and a trace of worry and fear flashed across his face. From the looks of it, Qin Hao was definitely afraid and definitely did not dare to agree to Xiao Jihan's challenge. Afraid? Xiao Jihan raised his eyebrows and his eyes were filled with disdain. Gutless. Trash like you doesn't even have this bit of courage. What right do you have to challenge me? I promise you. To everyone's surprise, Qin Hao actually seemed to be unable to withstand Xiao Jihan's mockery and agreed with a rush of blood in his head. This was really too courageous, but too brainless. Lil Linger and the others were dumbfounded, while the onlookers all looked at Qin Hao with pity as if they were looking at an idiot. Xiao Jihan was secretly delighted. This was the purpose of his personal visit. Of course, before he came, he also knew that there was not much hope. However, as long as Qin Hao did not agree, he could confidently find a way to trample on Qin Hao in the future. Not only could he suppress him, but he could also make everyone think that he, Xiao Jihan, was righteous and had nothing to say about his brothers. However, he was pleasantly surprised that he had achieved his goals so easily. Last night, he, the sixth elder, and the three fellows who had fought with Qin Hao had discussed for half the night. He knew very well that Qin Hao had injured the three of them purely because of his innate talent, iron head, speed, and the fact that the three of them had underestimated him. In terms of true strength, he was no match for the three of them. It was just a coincidence that Qin Hao had taken advantage of them. Of course, it had to be said that Qin Hao was very talented. In time, he would undoubtedly pose a great threat to Xiao Jihan's title as the #1 genius. However, neither the sixth elder nor Xiao Jihan believed that Qin Hao would have the qualifications to challenge Xiao Jihan in half a year's time. Even if Qin Hao was a genius, could he surpass a 7th grade martial warrior in half a year's time? Furthermore, Xiao Jihan would at least be able to advance to a 9th grade martial warrior in half a year's time. As long as Xiao Jihan put in a bit of effort, he would have no problem stepping into the realm of martial master. The leap from martial warrior to martial master was not the same as the leap from martial disciple to martial student or martial student to martial warrior. This was because only martial masters were considered to have truly stepped into the ranks of martial experts. Martial warriors, martial students, and martial warriors might have the qualifications to challenge someone of a higher grade or even a higher grade. However, martial warriors and martial masters would never be able to challenge someone of a higher grade. This was because they were not on the same level at all. This was also why martial disciples, martial students, and martial warriors were categorized as low-grade martial artists, while martial masters were categorized as high-grade martial artists. Furthermore, Xiao Jihan's comprehension was astonishing. He was unmatched among martial artists of the same grade. Challenging someone of a higher grade was nothing to him. How could such a powerful person be surpassed by someone who was not even a martial disciple in half a year's time? Geniuses were formed from 99% of their sweat and 1% of their talent. No matter how much of a genius Qin Hao was, cultivation was still a step-by-step process. Without experiencing the tempering of time, wanting to achieve success overnight was impossible. However, I'll say the ugly words first. If you have the guts, then wait openly for our life and death battle in half a year's time. Don't play any tricks with me. If you continue to play your tricks in half a year's time, then our agreement will be voided. Qin Hao said with a frown. From his expression, he seemed to be regretting his impulsive decision to agree to Xiao Jihan's request. It's a deal. Those who break the agreement will be kicked out of the Xiao family. Xiao Jihan replied impatiently. All right. Qin Hao was also impatient, but he did not show it. Xiao Xianghao, I have to say that you have guts. If you hadn't offended my brother, I might have treated you as a brother. Unfortunately, let's go. Xiao Jihan's face flashed with a trace of undetectable pride. He looked at the injured Xiao Jichuan and Xiao Jitao and spoke with a sense of righteousness. Not only did he agree to the life and death battle, this despicable and shameless fellow even wanted to push the blame of this life and death battle onto those idiots, making him stand on the moral high ground. Even Chen Hao could not help but admire him. This fellow indeed had the talent to be a formidable person. He was willing to sacrifice himself for his brothers. Seeing Xiao Jihan and the rest leave, Chen Hao did not say anything. Justice was in the hearts of people. There were some words that others would not agree with just because he said them. Of course, Chen Hao, who was arrogant in his heart, did not bother to refute. Strength was the absolute truth. Just like Madman Li Yuan back on Earth, he was the truth. In less than half an hour, the news of Chen Hao and Xiao Jihan's life and death battle quickly spread among the Xiao family disciples as if it had grown wings. Xiao Jishan, who was eating in the cafeteria, immediately spat out his food when he heard the news. Similarly, Xiao Jian, who originally wanted to ask Chen Hao why he got into a conflict with Xiao Jihan and the others when she went to old Master Zhao's place for class in the morning, was also stunned. A life and death battle? That was a life and death battle. Thanks to yesterday's passionate love carrot, Chuan Liangguizi, Chen Thao Hui, only speed is unbreakable? Abbas Miju reads, Naughty Watermelon, Staihua, 9th Dusk as a reward from 9 friends. After reading, please help to vote for me and click to bookmark. Thank you. Chapter 23. A Battle to the Death. That brat really doesn't know his limits. Boss will become a 9th grade martial warrior in half a year's time. He might even become a martial master. Boss, when that time comes, you have to take it easy. It won't be enough to vent your anger. Yeah, boss, you have to take it easy. It's best if you break his balls first. Break both his legs, then slowly torture that bastard to death. Boss will definitely be qualified to participate in this year's Yun Province martial gathering. Let's use that brat to establish our dominance so that Xiao Jishan, Xiao Jifei, and the others won't be convinced. Xiao Jichuan said. Hearing Xiao Jichuan's words, a trace of pride flashed across Xiao Jihan's face. He smiled and said, Don't worry, I'll let you vent your anger. Since that brat is so daring, it's not a bad idea to use him to establish our dominance. During this period of time, don't cause trouble for him. I don't want to lose this opportunity. Ji Feng immediately informed the cafeteria to stop targeting him. Also, all of you stay quiet during this period of time. I'm going to cultivate in seclusion. After Xiao Jihan finished speaking, he quickly left, leaving the crowd looking at each other in dismay. Seclusion? Doesn't boss hate seclusion the most? Yeah, otherwise, with boss's aptitude and comprehension, he would have already become an inner court disciple. Could it be because of that brat? Do you have a brain? Although that brat is talented, what's there to be excited about in half a year's time? Looks like boss is very interested in this year's Yun Province martial gathering. Only martial masters have a chance to participate. Xiao Jichang frowned slightly and said, Boss is now a 7th grade martial warrior. In half a year's time, it won't be a problem for him to reach the peak of 9th grade martial warrior. However, breaking through from a martial warrior to a martial master is the most difficult hurdle. Many people are stuck at 9th grade martial warrior for 1 or 2 years. Boss has no choice but to cultivate in seclusion. I was just saying, did boss take it seriously? Xiao Jichuan asked in surprise. The Cloud State Martial Gathering was the grandest, busiest, largest, and most influential event in the Cloud State County. All the forces within the Cloud State County would participate, and the Cloud State County Mayor would host the event. It was related to the reputation and prestige of every force. In the Xiao clan, the lack of geniuses from the Yong and Shi generations had caused the Xiao clan, one of the 4 great clans, to lose to the other 3 great clans for 3 consecutive years. If this continued, it would be a problem for the Xiao clan to become one of the 4 great clans. Yun Provinces Yun Province, Yun Provinces Yun Provinces Yun Province, Yun's Yun Provinces Yun's Yun, Yun's Yun Province. In the short term, the Xiao family could still rely on the support of the older generation. But what about a few years later? 10 years later? As more and more young experts emerged from the other forces, when this new blood matured into the backbone of their respective forces, the Shao clan would definitely be lacking in successors, and it would be difficult for them to maintain their position as one of the four great clans. This was also the reason why the Shao clan would heavily reward the first disciples of the Ji and Xiang generations to enter the inner court. They simply wanted to motivate these disciples to cultivate diligently. That must be it. I think boss wants to become a martial master. Only then can he obtain the qualifications to participate in the Yun province martial meet. Of course, it would be easier to trample on that poor brat. Otherwise, with that guy's ruthlessness, motherfucker, he might even bite our boss's penis. Xiao Jitao, whose arm was in a sling, said. At this moment, when he thought of Chen Hao's ferocious gaze that was like a wild beast that risked his life, this fellow felt a little terrified in his heart. Ha, what's going on between you and Xiao Jihan? When Chen Hao finished his breakfast and rushed to the profound library, Elder Xiao and Xiao Jian were already waiting for him. Elder Xiao frowned and asked as soon as Chen Hao entered. Chen Hao was slightly taken aback. Clearly, Elder Xiao and Xiao Jian already knew about the matter between him and Xiao Jihan. After hesitating for a moment, Chen Hao looked at Xiao Jian and said, I'm not too sure about the exact reason. However, from the moment I entered the Xiao family, he started to target me. Targeting you? When I was reporting in, Xiao Jun, who sent me to the dormitory, said something in a low voice. I happened to hear it and was very surprised. What did he say? He said, if you offend senior brother Jihan, you'll have to suffer in the future? I just reported in. Moreover, I didn't even know who Xiao Jihan was at that time, so how could I have offended him? I only saw him for the first time yesterday when I was leaving class with senior sister Ji Yen. It was also then that I found out what Xiao Jihan looked like. When we participated in the entrance test, he seemed to be in charge of supervising us. However, there was no conflict at that time. I really can't figure out how I could have offended him. Chen Hao paused for a moment and looked at Xiao Jian before continuing. Logically speaking, I'm just a new disciple. Why would he pay attention to me? How did I offend him? During the entrance test, the only Shao clan disciple who spoke to me was you, senior sister Ji Yen. How did I offend him? Elder Xiao frowned slightly. Little junior brother. I told senior brother Jihan that you are different from ordinary people. I only said that you would definitely pass the Shao clan's entrance test because you have the confidence and courage to become a warrior. However, that shouldn't be the case. Could it be that senior brother Jihan deliberately targeted you because of this? I don't know either. Ever since I entered the Shao clan, Chen Hao stopped there. Xiao Jian could not think of it, but Elder Xiao definitely understood. Therefore, he did not continue on this topic. Instead, he slowly recounted everything that Xiao Jihan had done to him since he had entered the Shao clan. This included the two conflicts yesterday and the details of the life and death battle that morning. He did not leave out a single detail. That's what happened, Chen Hao said with an aggrieved, indignant, and innocent expression. Senior brother Jihan. How could he do this? Xiao Jian said in a seemingly dissatisfied tone as she sympathized with Chen Hao. Just because of this, you agreed to his life and death battle? Don't you know that this is exactly what he wants? Elder Xiao asked Chen Hao with narrowed eyes. Through Chen Hao's recount, Elder Xiao gained a deeper understanding of Chen Hao. This guy was simply a monster. Ignoring the fact that Chen Hao had injured 3 martial warriors, just the fact that he could see through the other party's scheme and come up with a countermeasure was astonishing. His temperament was much more mature than his peers. Furthermore, Elder Xiao could tell that although Chen Hao did not explicitly say that it was because of Xiao Jian, his words implied that it was because of Xiao Jian and Chen Hao's talent that Xiao Jihan had done so. Therefore, Elder Xiao could conclude that Chen Hao definitely knew that Xiao Jihan had deliberately provoked him into agreeing to the life and death battle. However, why would Chen Hao agree to it even though he knew this? This made Elder Xiao puzzled. After all, Elder Xiao did not believe that Chen Hao would have the qualifications to fight against Xiao Jihan in half a year. I know. However, this is exactly what I want. You want? How can you defeat Xiao Jihan in half a year? He is now a 7th grade martial warrior. If he is lucky, he will be able to become a martial master in half a year. Although Xiao Jihan does not have a spiritual root, his talent and comprehension are top-notch. If not for his half-hearted cultivation, he would have already become a martial master. Although your physical talent is very strong, there is only one outcome for you if you go up against him: death. Do you understand? I will work hard in my cultivation. Elder Xiao, instead of being suppressed by him, why don't we have a good fight? I believe that I will absolutely not lose to him in half a year. Chen Hao looked at Elder Xiao's concerned and worried expression and didn't hesitate any longer, directly speaking with a firm gaze. You brat. Having confidence is a good thing, but being too confident is conceit. Sigh, alright? Elder Xiao suddenly stopped and waved his hand. He wanted to say something but suddenly stopped. After a slight pause, he continued, since you have already agreed to it, you should work hard. Whether you live or die, you can only leave it to fate. No. I'll go look for father and ask him to cancel your agreement. How can senior brother Jihan do this? How can this kind of agreement be cancelled so easily? We'll talk about it when the time comes. Elder Xiao stopped Xiao Jian and transmitted his voice. Don't worry, it's good to give this brat some pressure. When the time comes, I won't let him get hurt. You should stay away from Xiao Jihan in the future. That brat is not a good person. Furthermore, you are destined to be on a different level from him. The night was boundless, and under the faint starlight, the undulating mountain peaks rose and fell. Other than the occasional roar of wild beasts, everything was silent. This was the demonic Cloud Mountain Range, which was 100 miles away from the Xiao clan. Huff! At this moment, in a natural, concealed, and spacious cave, a thin and small figure was tossing and turning, punching and kicking, causing slight sounds of the air being torn apart. His clothes had long since been drenched in sweat, but he didn't have the slightest intention of stopping. The burning bonfire in the cave illuminated the young man's slightly immature face. This young man was Chen Hao. P.S. My recommendation and collection are not ideal. It's very sad. Brothers and sisters, please support Dark Mountain. Chapter 24. Chen Hao had been training in the wilderness for close to 2 months. He had been training day and night, spending all his time fighting and cultivating. During the day, he hunted the low-level beasts in the forest and cultivated in this hidden cave until late at night. This kind of crazy training was not something an ordinary person could do. Not only did it require an indomitable will and perseverance, it also required the ability to withstand this kind of torture and self-abuse. Perhaps only Chen Hao, who had an innately strong physical body, could withstand this kind of high-intensity training. If it were anyone else, even if they had such perseverance and determination, they would have died from exhaustion. After Chen Hao and Xiao Jihan had agreed to a battle to the death, Chen Hao followed the disciples of the Xiao clan and trained for 2 months. After learning the basic fist techniques, leg techniques, footwork techniques, and other basic techniques of the disciples of the Xiao clan, he suggested to Elder Xiao that only disciples who had reached the martial warrior level could undergo the training. Furthermore, under normal circumstances, it was only possible for a few disciples to form a team to undergo the training. This was something that could not be helped. Especially as the date of his battle to the death with Xiao Jihan approached, the pressure on Chen Hao increased. In just 2 months, Xiao Jihan, who had been cultivating in seclusion, had advanced to a 9th-grade martial warrior with the support of the Xiao families and his own family's spiritual herbs. 4 months later, according to Elder Zhao's estimation, Xiao Jihan would definitely be able to step into the ranks of martial masters. Chen Hao already had a clear understanding of the strength of a martial master. Currently, it was not something that he could contend against. Chen Hao could not help but admit that he had underestimated Xiao Jihan. If he continued to cultivate at this speed, Chen Hao would definitely not be a match for Xiao Jihan. Therefore, Chen Hao could only choose to train alone in the demonic Cloud Mountain Range, which was uninhabited and filled with all kinds of beasts. This was the only way for him to improve himself at the fastest speed possible. The reason was simple. Firstly, the demonic Cloud Mountain Range was filled with life and death situations. It was undoubtedly the best way to train. Secondly, it was the ancient Chinese martial arts. This was the main reason why Chen Hao was determined to go to the Magic Cloud Mountain range to gain experience. During the 2 months in the Shao family, Chen Hao did not practice Chinese ancient martial arts, mainly because the environment did not allow it. After all, Chinese ancient martial arts did not belong to this world, so naturally, it could not be seen by anyone. This was because Chen Hao could not explain clearly where he learned these skills. Furthermore, Chen Hao did not have a true understanding of the cultivation techniques of this world. He did not know whether the Shao family's cultivation techniques were stronger or weaker than the ancient Chinese martial arts. Therefore, during these 2 months of learning the Shao family's basic cultivation techniques, Chen Hao had been analyzing them in detail. After making a clear judgment, he did not hesitate to raise the matter of training with Elder Shao. Without a doubt, ancient Chinese martial arts was the best choice for the current Chen Hao. Elder Shao naturally did not agree at first, because the experience in the Magic Cloud Mountain range was too dangerous for Chen Hao. However, he could not withstand Chen Hao's persistent pestering and his firm determination and various reasons to go to the Magic Cloud Mountain range to gain experience. After Chen Hao promised that he would not take any risks, Elder Shao reluctantly agreed. Finally, at around midnight, Chen Hao, who was sweating profusely, stopped. It's been 2 months. This result is much better than Li Yuanxiang back then. Moreover, this world is more suitable for cultivation. It seems that Earth has been polluted by the rapid development of science and technology and is no longer suitable for cultivation. The same cultivation method, but the effect of cultivating is on a completely different level. The originally unfathomable Taoist cultivation method may be able to be cultivated in this world. Chen Hao was lying in the cave, exhausted, and said to himself, although Li Yuan had used a Herculean effort to obtain a Taoist cultivation technique from an ancient Taoist relic, he could not even get a glimpse of it. But now, Chen Hao faintly felt that it was not that Li Yuan could not do it, but that the earth was no longer suitable for cultivation. Otherwise, the ancient martial arts and Taoist techniques that had been passed down would not have declined to the point of near extinction, especially for cultivators. There are still 2 months before the life and death battle. I wonder if Shao Jihan has stepped into the martial master realm. I really did not expect a martial master to be so powerful. The scene of Elder Shao showing him the power of a martial master flashed in Chen Hao's mind, and he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Martial warrior and martial master were only 1 word apart, but they were so close yet so far apart. They were not on the same level at all. The vigorous origin energy was actually able to condense into a light red protective aura around his body. No matter how much strength Chen Hao used, he could not move it at all. And that was only a grade 1 martial master simulated by Elder Shao. This also meant that if Shao Jihan had stepped into the ranks of martial masters, with Chen Hao's strength at that time, he would not even be able to break through his protective aura, let alone cause him any harm. Furthermore, martial masters could also release origin energy and injure people from a distance. This made Chen Hao's speed advantage disappear. No matter how fast he was, how could he be faster than an origin energy attack? This was simply courting death. Chen Hao took a deep breath and slowly said, "This is the last time. If I don't make any progress with the secret of longevity, then I'll try to cultivate the cultivation method in the Taoist scriptures secrets." Chen Hao practiced step by step in the Shao family for 2 months, and then practiced in the Magic Cloud Mountain range for another 2 months. For a total of 4 months, Chen Hao didn't go against Elder Zhao's wishes. Except for the secret to long life, he didn't practice any internal strength cultivation method. This was because Chen Hao was clear that the inner force cultivation method should be specialized and avoid miscellaneous things. However, what Chen Hao didn't understand was that in less than 2 months, Chen Hao had already cultivated the first layer of the secret to long life to the realm of perfection. In his Dantian, he had condensed a boundless amount of origin energy that far exceeded Elder Zhao's imagination, allowing Chen Hao to successfully advance to the peak of 9th grade martial disciple. When he circulated his origin energy and brandished his fists and legs, he could emit waves of white origin energy. However, when he began to cultivate the second layer of the secret to long life, every time he finished cultivating, the boundless origin energy that he had painstakingly condensed would silently disappear. Until now, he was still stuck in the 9th grade martial disciple realm. And now, there were only 2 months left until the Xiao family's year-end outer disciple tournament. This meant that in 2 months, Chen Hao and Xiao Jihan would have a battle to the death. Without the support of a strong origin energy, even if Chen Hao's physical body was very strong, how could he possibly defeat Xiao Jihan, who was destined to become a martial master? This was where Chen Hao's true pressure lay. Although he had underestimated Xiao Jihan's ability, if not for the abnormality in the longevity secret, so what if Xiao Jihan became a martial master? What Chen Hao did not know was that when he said that he would try to cultivate the longevity secret for the last time, there was an imperceptible ripple in the depths of his mind. Slowly sitting up cross-legged, Chen Hao took a deep breath and began to cultivate the second level of the longevity secret once again. Very quickly, he threw away all distracting thoughts and entered a state of cultivation. The burning bonfire gradually extinguished and the cave was plunged into complete darkness. Only Chen Hao's deep, even, and almost inaudible breathing could be heard in the silent cave. Gradually, following the circulation of the secret to long life, Chen Hao's body began to emit a faint milky white light. Moreover, as time passed, the color became more and more intense. This kind of white light was the symbol of a 9th grade martial disciple's origin energy. Chen Hao's mind was immersed in his dantian. When he felt that his origin energy had been condensed to its limit, he began to cultivate the second level of the longevity secret once again. The white glow of origin energy became denser and denser, more and more intense and more condensed. 6 hours later, Chen Hao finally completed his cultivation and slowly opened his eyes. His black pupils shone with 2 rays of intense white light. The soreness and exhaustion in his body had been completely swept away. He was once again full of energy and vigor. This was the last time he would cultivate the longevity secret. If the condensed origin energy still mysteriously disappeared, Chen Hao would have to start a new attempt. But what made Chen Hao faintly anticipate was that this cultivation seemed to be a little different from the past. In the past, when he finished cultivating, the condensed origin energy in his dantian was abnormally active, as if it had a mind of its own. It had no intention of staying in Chen Hao's dantian. But this time, the condensed origin energy, after he finished cultivating, completely condensed into the core of his dantian. Finally, it gathered together and slowly revolved around the core of his dantian. Moreover, it began to slowly shrink. Could it be that I succeeded? After more than 10 minutes, Chen Hao, who was still quietly sensing the changes in the origin energy in his dantian, thought to himself with a flash of excitement in his eyes. In the past, at this time, the origin energy in his dantian would have disappeared. But this time, it did not. Phew. It should be a success. As long as I condense this origin energy to a sufficiently vigorous level, it will definitely undergo a qualitative change and I will step into the martial artist realm. There are only 2 months left. Unless I can break through Xiao Jihan's defense with absolute strength, I have no chance of winning. At the very least, I have to advance to the martial warrior realm. Chen Hao's eyes shone brightly as he quickly made a decision. At this time, he had already cultivated ancient Chinese martial arts for 2 months. There were no problems with his moves, speed, reaction, etc. He was definitely not inferior to Xiao Jihan. The only thing he lacked was absolute strength. Otherwise, if he were to fight, it would be like an ant trying to shake a tree. If he could not even break through Xiao Jihan's defense, wouldn't Xiao Jihan be in an invincible position? Therefore, the most important thing Chen Hao needed to do now was to increase his origin energy. He needed to have absolute strength to break through a martial master's protective qi. Phew, letting out a long sigh, Chen Hao picked up the long sword beside him. At this time, the bonfire in the cave had already been extinguished. It was still dark and only a faint light shone in from the narrow opening. It was obvious that the sky was already bright. Not long after Chen Hao entered the Demon Cloud Mountain range, he found this cave after hunting a python that was as thick as a person and several meters long. This place was the python's nest. When Chen Hao chased the python to this place, he did not expect that the cave, which was only big enough for one person to crawl through, would have a completely different world after a few meters of winding. Such an excellent place to rest naturally became Chen Hao's temporary residence. After crawling for a few meters, Chen Hao pushed away the stone placed at the entrance of the cave and walked out of the cave. He once again covered the entrance with the stone, and with a flash of his body, he quickly walked into the depths of the forest. P.S. Thank you to Passionate Love Chuan Liang Wuzi, Chen, Dancing with the Wind, Phone by Lazy Scattered, The Seven Friends. Thank you very much for your many tips. If you haven't collected it yet, please help me collect it after reading it. Finally, I sincerely ask for a recommendation vote. We really don't have enough recommendation votes. Please. Chapter 25. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months had passed. In the Shao clan, there were only 2 more days until the Shao clan competition. The disciples of the Shao clan under the age of 20 were all mustering their strength and making their final effort. This was especially true for the Ji and Xiang generations. These 2 generations were the main force of the clan competition and everyone had to participate. The final ranking would determine the treatment they would receive in the first half of the year. This was not just a matter of face, but also a substantial benefit. This was especially true for those who were ranked in the top 10 of each generation. The treatment they received was absolutely superb. It was a pity that Chen Hao, who originally had the qualifications to enjoy it, did not get to enjoy it. As early as 10 days ago, all the disciples no longer gathered together to cultivate. They were all doing their best for the upcoming clan competition. Shao clan, Old Man Zhao's room. Ancestor, could something have happened to little junior brother? There are only 2 more days until the clan competition, why isn't he back yet? Xiao Ji Yen asked worriedly after finishing her cultivation under Old Man Zhao's protection. Although Xiao Ji Yen was young and naive, she already understood that Chen Hao was being suppressed by Xiao Ji Han because of her. This made her feel a little guilty. Although she already knew that Old Man Xiao would not watch Chen Hao die in the life and death battle with Xiao Ji Han, it still put a lot of pressure on Chen Hao. Otherwise, Chen Hao wouldn't have been so determined to undergo the training that only martial warriors could undergo when he had just become a martial disciple. This was completely forced by Xiao Ji Han, and now, Chen Hao had actually been gone for 4 months. This was something that had never happened before among the Shao clan disciples. Even if it was a training trip, it would take at most 10 days to half a month before returning to the clan to replenish their supplies. At the very least, they would rest for a period of time before setting off again. However, Chen Hao did not return even once. If something really happened to Chen Hao, Xiao Ji Yen would feel very guilty. Don't mention that brat. Old Man Xiao, who was originally calm, suddenly became angry when he heard Xiao Ji Yen's words. He even blew his beard and glared at Xiao Ji Yen, seemingly very angry. Xiao Ji Yen stuck out her tongue. She was not surprised. Xiao Ji Yen had seen Old Man Xiao like this many times. Of course, Elder Xiao would only be like this when she mentioned Chen Hao. Although Xiao Ji Yen didn't know what was going on, she knew that it definitely had something to do with Chen Hao. He could vaguely guess what was going on. At that time, when Chen Hao strongly requested to go to the Magic Cloud Mountain range to gain experience, Elder Xiao originally refused. Later, he was pestered to the point that he had no choice but to reluctantly agree to Chen Hao. However, as soon as Chen Hao left, Elder Xiao followed him out. After all, Chen Hao was the most talented disciple Elder Xiao had encountered in the past few tens of years, and he didn't want Chen Hao to be buried in the extremely dangerous Demon Cloud Mountain range. Thus, protecting Chen Hao from the shadows was a must. However, to Xiao Ji Yan's surprise, after only 3 days, Elder Xiao returned alone with a depressed expression. From then on, whenever Xiao Ji Yan asked about Chen Hao, Elder Xiao would blow his beard and glare at her. His old face would even turn red. When Xiao Ji Yan saw this for the first time, she was surprised and shocked, but after seeing it many times, she got used to it. Old ancestor, I'm just worried about your treasured disciple. Will he really be fine? There are only 2 days left. Junior brother won't be afraid to come back, right? Afraid? He even dares to the old ancestor. You don't have to worry about him. Before the grand competition, that stinking brat will definitely come back. Old ancestor, how can you be so sure? Why don't you tell Yen? That brat is a freak, what's there to talk about? Alright, there are only 2 days left, you don't have to come here anymore. Go go go. Xiao Ji Yen pouted. When she reached the door, she suddenly turned her head and said to Elder Xiao, Old ancestor, you didn't lose junior brother, did you? Nonsense. There's no such thing. I'm a martial emperor, how can I lose him? I just don't want to care about that brat. Don't talk nonsense, hurry up and go. Elder Xiao's face turned red as he pretended to be angry and wanted to teach Xiao Ji Yen a lesson. He was a martial emperor, yet a mere martial disciple had slipped away right under his nose. Not only had he slipped away, he had even left a message saying that he had to give up his cultivation as a threat. He had used all sorts of reasons to stop Elder Xiao from following him. Xiao Ji Yen giggled and quickly ran out of the house. After walking out of the house, Xiao Ji Yen frowned and muttered to herself, I must have guessed correctly. But why isn't the old ancestor worried? Junior brother is indeed powerful. It's so difficult to learn the secret to longevity, but he managed to become a grade 9 martial disciple in 2 months. He's several times faster than I was back then. I wonder what realm he's at now. There are only 2 days left. Senior brother Jihan. Xiao Ji Yen slowly frowned when she thought of Xiao Jihan. Xiao Jihan had always had a good image in her heart. He was also a senior brother that she respected, liked, and even worshipped. Xiao Jihan especially treated her better than her own brother. He doted on and cared for her in every way possible, causing her to be very dependent on him. Xiao Jihan had been in the Xiao clan for 3 years. During these 3 years, the two of them were as close as brother and sister. However, because of Chen Hao, she felt estranged from Xiao Jihan. She originally wanted to ask Xiao Jihan in person, but Xiao Jihan did not give her the chance and directly went into seclusion. On one side was a senior brother who doted on her in every way possible and was closer to her than her own brother. On the other side was a junior brother that she had a good impression of and had unlimited potential. If the two of them could get along peacefully, Xiao Ji Yen would naturally be most willing to see it happen. However, they were about to engage in a life-and-death battle now. Fortunately, Old Man Xiao had spoken and asked the patriarch, Xiao Ding, to mediate. The life-and-death battle between the two of them should not happen. 2 months ago, the 6th elder spread the news that senior brother Jihan had already advanced to a grade 1 martial master. 2 months later, I heard that senior brother Jihan's family sent him a grade 5 spirit herb. With his talent, perhaps, he might even be a grade 3 martial master. How could junior brother possibly be a match for him? Xiao Jian frowned and lowered her head. While thinking about her worries, she walked out of the profound library. Grade 5 spirit herbs had astonishing effects even when refined by a grade 5 martial master. The effects were naturally even better for a grade 1 martial master. Even with the Xiao clan's foundation, the number of grade 5 spirit herbs they had was quite limited. Jian. Just as Xiao Jian walked out of the profound library, a cultured and refined voice with a trace of joy and pride suddenly sounded. Xiao Jihan, who was wearing snow-white clothes and had a jade-like face, appeared in front of Xiao Jiyen with a faint smile on his face. He gazed at Xiao Jiyen, who had become even more beautiful after not seeing her for half a year. The smile on his face was like a spring breeze, and he did not conceal the admiration and love in his eyes. It was obvious that this guy had been waiting at the door for some time. Jiyen, you've become even more beautiful after not seeing you for half a year. Xiao Jihan habitually stretched out his hand and dotingly patted Xiao Jiyan's head. However, when she saw Xiao Jihan suddenly appear, Xiao Jiyan, who seemed very surprised, widened her eyes and quickly took 2 steps back. Senior brother Jihan, what's wrong? Don't you recognize your senior brother? Xiao Jihan smiled and slowly retracted his hand that was hovering in midair. He said, over the past half a year, I have been cultivating in seclusion in order to avenge our family in the Cloud region's martial meet. Don't misunderstand. I have distanced myself from you during this period of time. Look, I came to find you as soon as I exited seclusion. Look, what is this? As Xiao Jihan spoke, he took out an exquisite jewelry box from his bosom. With a faint smile on his face, he waved it at Xiao Jiyan. In the past, Xiao Jiyan would definitely happily snatch it from Xiao Jihan's hands. However, this time, Xiao Jiyan acted as if she did not see the gift in Xiao Jihan's hands and stared at him with a strange gaze. Jiyan, what's wrong with you? Are you really angry? Your senior brother did not lie to you. I have indeed been in seclusion. Other than the sixth elder, I have not seen anyone else for the past half a year. Xiao Jihan said. As he spoke, his aura suddenly underwent a shocking change. Asterisk boom. Asterisk, a majestic yuan qi fluctuation instantly spread out from Xiao Jihan's body, and a layer of fiery red protective aura instantly condensed around him. His white robe fluttered without wind, and his long hair danced in the wind. That majestic and powerful aura instantly attracted the attention of the Xiao clan disciples who were passing by. All of them stopped in their tracks in shock and stared at Xiao Jihan, who was standing proudly, with eyes filled with envy, jealousy, and admiration. Martial Master? Senior brother Jihan has really stepped into the Martial Master realm. This fluctuation of origin energy, the color. I'm afraid he's a grade 3 Martial Master, right? That's right, so powerful. Xiao Xianghao, that arrogant fellow, is dead meat, that's for sure. Maybe he's already dead. It's been 4 months. That brat went to the Demon Cloud mountain range to train alone and still hasn't returned. That's not necessarily true. I feel that the possibility of that brat escaping is higher. Who knows, he might have already run to some remote corner of the mountain and doesn't dare to come out. That's possible. If I were him, I might really do that. It's better to live than to die. Grade 4 Martial Master? Xiao Jiyan's eyes widened as she spoke in shock. The fiery red protective energy condensed from origin energy was definitely not something a grade 1 to grade 3 Martial Master could achieve. Xiao Jiyan was naturally more aware of this than the ordinary Xiao clan disciples. Grade 1 to grade 3 Martial Masters would at most have a faint red color. Grade 3 Martial Masters' origin energy would be the thickest, but it would definitely not reach the color of burning flames. Only grade 4 Martial Masters and above would have such a color. Xiao Jihan listened to the discussions of the surrounding crowd and saw the shock on Xiao Jiyan's beautiful face. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly and he revealed a smile. His voice carried a trace of unconcealable arrogance as he said, "No, it's grade 5. Second update. Please recommend me, add me, click me, etc. I really need the help of my friends. Please give me some motivation. Thank you." Chapter 26. 5th grade? Xiao Jian muttered with a shocked expression. She had originally thought that although Xiao Jihan had a high level of talent and comprehension, becoming a 3rd grade martial master was his limit. However, she had still underestimated Xiao Jihan. She had to admit that his cultivation talent and comprehension far exceeded that of an ordinary person. After half a year of closed-door cultivation, he had gone from a 7th grade martial warrior to a 5th grade martial master. Xiao Jian was certain that even if Xiao Jihan did not have a spirit root, his future achievements would still be beyond the reach of ordinary people. He would definitely become one of the top experts in the Xiao clan. Although spirit root was important to cultivators, and under normal circumstances, it was also the main factor in determining how high a person could reach on the path of cultivation. However, it was not the only factor. Some people with a high level of talent and comprehension were exceptions. This was because they could reach 9th grade Martial King at a speed several times faster than ordinary people. When their bodies were still in peak condition, they could break through the Martial King barrier and step into the Martial Emperor realm. This was the realm that represented the greatest divide for cultivators, and they would become a true expert. Old Xiao had once said that such people were like phoenix feathers and qilin horns, existences that were 1 in a million, and they were extremely rare. This was because after stepping into the martial master realm, it was not as simple as martial disciple, martial student, and martial warrior. In the martial master realm, There was a barrier between each grade. Furthermore, the higher the barrier, the harder it was to break through. This also meant that every increase in grade was not something that could be accomplished through pure hard work. It also required the corresponding comprehension. Many people were restricted by their own comprehension. After stepping into the martial master realm, their speed of advancement would become extremely slow, and some would even stop at a certain grade. However, Xiao Jihan had broken through 4 barriers and stepped into the 5th grade martial master realm in just a month after advancing into the martial master realm. More importantly, Xiao Jihan was only 16 years old this year. Not only Xiao Jian, but even Xiao Jihan himself did not expect such a speed of advancement. All along, Xiao Jihan had been very confident in his talent and comprehension. Perhaps it was because of this that he had never seriously cultivated. However, even so, he still obtained the title of the #1 genius of the Xiao clan's Ji generation. Furthermore, he liked it when others talked about him with envy. He did not need to cultivate to achieve what ordinary people could not. He didn't put in much effort, but what he got in return exceeded that of ordinary people. This was an innate talent for cultivation. This gave him a sense of superiority over everyone else. But this time, because of Chen Hao, or perhaps because of the upcoming Cloud Region Martial Gathering, he had truly calmed his heart. For the first time, he had seriously and wholeheartedly immersed himself in cultivation. The results he had obtained were actually so shocking that even he himself had to admire his own comprehension ability. It was really too awesome, Ji Yan, now do you believe that senior brother isn't intentionally distancing himself from you? Under the envious and amazed gazes of the crowd, Xiao Jihan withdrew his protective aura and spoke with a confident and proud smile. Senior brother Jihan, I know that you are in seclusion, but what? Let's go. There are many people here. We can talk as we walk. Xiao Jihan said gently. Xiao Jian hesitated for a moment before nodding her head. She looked at Xiao Jihan's smiling face and asked softly, Senior brother Jihan, why are you suppressing junior brother Xianghao? HM? Hearing Xiao Jiyan's words, Xiao Jihan frowned slightly and said, suppress him? Are you talking about a life and death battle? A life and death battle is one thing. Senior brother Jihan, as far as I know. When Xianghao first entered the Xiao family, you were already targeting him, right? Ji Yan, where did you get this information from? I was targeting him? Xianghao had just entered the Xiao family, so what did he have to do with me? Why would I target him? If not for the fact that he did not respect his seniors and lawlessly injured Yoshikawa and Jitao, I wouldn't have bothered with him. He's just a child. But what I know is that it was Xiao Yoshikawa, Xiao Jitao, and the others who bullied junior brother Xianghao first. Also, junior brother Xianghao had just entered the Xiao family. He should have been first, but now he's in last place. The cafeteria chefs, his instructors, and everyone else don't like him. What's going on? Xiao Jian argued. There's such a thing? Xiao Jihan asked, seemingly stunned. Yes, don't you know? Xiao Jihan frowned slightly. He did not expect that Xiao Jian would actually protect a junior brother she had just met despite their relationship. He felt more and more certain that he had done the right thing. Otherwise, with Chen Hao's talent and the fact that he was close to Xiao Jian in age, all of his efforts would have been for naught, and in the end, all of his efforts would have been for naught. It had been 3 years. Ever since he met Xiao Jiyan, Xiao Jihan had done everything he could to please Xiao Jiyan. However, due to Xiao Jiyan's young age, he could not show any affection between a man and a woman. He could only interact with her like a big brother and make her feel attached to him. He believed that when Xiao Jiyan had her first awakening of love, their relationship would naturally turn into that of a man and a woman. After 3 years of hard work, he would never allow anyone to snatch Xiao Jiyan away when he was about to reap the fruits of victory. Of course, the title of the #1 genius that he was so proud of would never be taken away by anyone who could threaten him. That's strange. It seems that someone is really targeting him. Could it be? Xiao Jihan muttered after pondering for a moment with a frown. He looked as if he really did not know. Especially when he said those words, the naive Xiao Jian felt that perhaps this matter was not done by Xiao Jihan. Could it be what? Senior brother Jihan, do you know something? Xiao Jian asked. This might really be related to me, sight. These guys are just messing around. Ji Yan, you should know that Xiao Xianghao's cultivation talent is not inferior to mine, right? Yes. It should be about the same. Xiao Jian was confused by Xiao Jihan's words and did not understand what he was trying to say. After hearing his words, she seriously thought for a moment before replying. If she did not know that Xiao Jihan had advanced to rank 5 martial master, Xiao Jian would naturally think that his cultivation talent was inferior to Chen Hao's. But now, she faintly felt that Chen Hao was not necessarily stronger than Xiao Jihan. This was because Xiao Jihan's comprehension was simply too high. But his body's aptitude is much better than mine. Back then, during the entrance test, his speed couldn't even compare to mine. Sigh, I really shouldn't have spouted nonsense in front of those guys. Xiao Jihan seemed to be a little upset as he said this. What did you say? In front of who? Who else could it be? Wasn't it just Yoshikawa and the others? At that time, I was surprised by Xiao Xianghao's body's aptitude and said that he might surpass me. You should also know that Yoshikawa and the others are very fickle when it comes to me. They might have used my reputation to target Xiao Xianghao. Xiao Jihan said. At this moment, Xiao Jihan knew that only by using a scapegoat like this would Xiao Jian believe him. Otherwise, it would be impossible to explain the two conflicts between Xiao Jichang, Xiao Jichuan, and the others and Chen Hao. I knew senior brother Jihan was not such a person. I'm sorry, senior brother Jihan, I misunderstood you. It's my fault. Ji Yan, you have to believe me in the future. If there's anything you don't understand, you have to look for me immediately. I didn't expect such a thing to happen. Fortunately, we talked things out today. Otherwise, if you treated me as a bad person and ignored me, I would be very sad. Yes, that won't happen. I believe you, senior brother. Senior brother, since it's a misunderstanding, why don't you call off your life and death battle with junior brother? I don't want the two of you to kill each other. The innocent Xiao Jian was easily pacified by Xiao Jihan's words. Her beautiful face also returned to its usual appearance when she was with Xiao Jihan. Xiao Jihan frowned slightly. His expression suddenly changed as he said in a deep voice, Ji Yan, although it's a misunderstanding, a man's words carry enormous weight. Words that have been said are like spilled water. They can't be taken back. Furthermore, we agreed that whoever breaks the agreement will automatically be kicked out of the Xiao family. This is something that can't be changed. I don't have any other choice. Although Ji Chang and the others suppressed him first, he was too arrogant to challenge me as a disciple who had just entered the sect. The reason why I challenged him to a life and death battle was because I wanted to temper his personality. This was a good thing for him. Otherwise, with his personality, he would be killed by others sooner or later. However, he doesn't know what's good for him. You don't have to care about this matter. Senior brother. Xiao Jian wanted to persuade Xiao Jihan when she heard his words. Ji Yan, let's not talk about this anymore. Xiao Jihan waved his hand and said firmly. Xiao Jian hesitated for a moment before saying, all right then. I won't care about you anymore. In any case, the old ancestor and her father would intervene when the time came. Since the knot in her heart had been untied, Xiao Jian couldn't be bothered to care about it anymore. Furthermore, since Xiao Jihan was able to become a grade 5 martial master, the Xiao family would definitely think highly of him. In other words, whether it was Chen Hao or Xiao Jihan, the Xiao family wouldn't be willing to let anything happen to them. Otherwise, it would be a huge loss to the Xiao family. Yes. That's my good junior sister. Take it, senior brother bought it especially for you. Thank you, senior brother. Xiao Jian smiled and accepted it. In less than a day, the news of Xiao Jihan being promoted to a grade 5 martial master spread like wildfire within the Xiao clan, causing a huge uproar. Thank you to yesterday's Chuan Liangguizi, passionate love carrot, Chen, Albert_47, Mo Chingy, Naughty Watermelon, and 6 other friends tips. Please recommend me. Thank you. Chapter 27. When the Xiao clan's patriarch, Xiao Ding, received the sixth elder's report, he summoned Xiao Jihan that night. A few elders also went to visit Xiao Jihan at night, as if they had agreed beforehand. Although Xiao Jihan's current cultivation was nothing in their eyes, the shocking talent that Xiao Jihan had displayed this time indicated that he was destined to become one of the Xiao clan's top experts in the future. It was even possible for him to surpass Patriarch Xiao Ding. Such a person was worth it for them to place their bets on in advance and form good karma with him. Xiao Jishan, who had always been ranked second in the Ji generation and had been bitterly cultivating in seclusion for nearly half a year, finally broke through the martial warrior barrier and stepped into the martial master realm on the second day after Xiao Jihan came out of seclusion. He originally thought that he would be able to compete with Xiao Jihan in this year's year-end competition, or at least disrupt the situation before Xiao Jihan and Chen Hao's life and death duel. However, just as he came out of seclusion, he heard the news that Xiao Jihan had advanced to a 5th-grade martial warrior. This caused the boorish Xiao Jishan to feel a sense of helplessness from the depths of his heart. As for the Ji generation, the martial masters below the age of 20 were also incomparably shocked. They were very clear on how difficult it was to advance 1 grade after the martial master realm. 5th grade martial master. Old man has misjudged him. Late at night, Elder Xiao stood at the peak of Heaven's Road behind the Xiao clan's mountain and looked at the endless ash cloud mountain range in the distance as he muttered to himself. I wonder what realm that brat will advance to? However, it seems like there's no hope this time. Xiao Jihan advanced from a 7th grade martial warrior to a 5th grade martial master in half a year. With such talent and comprehension, he's probably even stronger than that brat. The only thing he lacks is a spiritual root. There's still one more day, he should be back by now, right? Chen Hao had already left the Xiao clan for an entire 4 months. Logically speaking, many people should have already forgotten about such an insignificant character. However, as the Xiao clan's outer court disciples saw that the end of the year competition was approaching, not only did they not forget about Chen Hao, on the contrary, Chen Hao had once again become one of the topics of discussion. A portion of the people guessed that Chen Hao might have died in the Demon Cloud mountain range. Another portion guessed that Chen Hao might have fled to some unknown place due to his momentary bravery. Perhaps he would never return to the Xiao clan again. A very small portion of the people felt that Chen Hao would definitely return. Of course, if Chen Hao returned, 99% of the people felt that there would only be one outcome, and that would be to throw away his life. The night before the year-end competition, Chen Hao still hadn't returned. Almost everyone thought that Chen Hao had either escaped or died in the Magic Cloud mountain range. That night, Di Ling, who had a good relationship with Chen Hao, couldn't sleep. First of all, the year-end competition was tomorrow morning, which made her feel uneasy. Second of all, Chen Hao still hadn't returned, which made Di Ling feel uncomfortable. Even she thought that she would probably never see Chen Hao again. That youth dressed in coarse linen with amazing talent, perhaps he would only exist in her memory and gradually disappear with the passage of time. Dong dong dong. Dong dong dong. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the sun rose from the east, and soft sunlight poured onto the earth. A new day had just begun, and the entire Xiao clan resounded with loud, vigorous, and concentrated sounds of bells. In a moment, one figure after another quickly walked towards the core of the Xiao clan, the largest martial arts practice field. The annual Xiao clan competition was the most important event of the Xiao clan. All the Xiao clan disciples, whether they were in the Xiao clan, in the Yunzhou County, or outside of the Yunzhou County, would drop everything and return to the Xiao clan to watch the competition. Because this wasn't as simple as the ranking of the Xiao clan disciples under the age of 20. More importantly, the top 10 disciples would be selected to represent the Xiao clan in the Yunzhou martial competition. This was a major event that concerned the future of the Xiao clan. No one would not care, and no one would not take it seriously. If the Xiao clan was strong, as a disciple of the Xiao clan, they would be able to stand tall in the outside world. If the Xiao clan was weak, they would have to bow down to them. Without a doubt, this would be the Xiao clan's most crowded and lively gathering of the entire year. How dare you? Where did this beggar come from? Is this a place you can come to? Just as the members of the Xiao clan were quickly gathering at the martial arts practice field, A few Shao clan guards on duty at the main gate of the Shao clan saw a beggar in ragged clothes trying to walk straight into the Shao clan. One of the guards immediately drew his sword and shouted sternly, stopping the beggar in his tracks. "I am a disciple of the Xiang generation, Shao Xianghao." What surprised the guards was that the beggar actually said in a deep voice without changing his expression. Of course, even if he changed his expression, it wouldn't be obvious. The current Chen Hao, who had been running for 3 days and 3 nights, was already covered in dust. Only his deep black eyes were still clear. "Shao Xianghao? You are Shao Xianghao?" "Yes." Chen Hao cupped his fists and replied. From the time he left the Shao clan to the Magic Cloud Mountain range, it had been a full 4 months. Perhaps because of his crazy cultivation, his originally thin and small figure had grown taller by half a head, and he also seemed to have become more robust. Originally, he should have returned to the Shao family 10 days ago. However, due to an accident, he was trapped for a full 10 days. After he escaped, he ran all the way and finally dared to return when the Shao family grand competition was about to begin. However, at this moment, his unkempt appearance made it difficult for people to associate him with a Shao clan disciple. His long hair was so long that it could definitely cause dust to fly up with a light pat. Strands of hair stuck together, making it unbelievably dirty. His entire body was black, and exuded a strong smell that was like blood, and also like a foul stench. Obviously, it was unknown how long it had been since he last bathed. The clothes on his body that seemed to have shrunk were even more tattered and dark. If one didn't look carefully, one really wouldn't be able to notice the symbol of a Shao clan disciple on his chest, as well as the dazzling number 99. This was originally a white shirt, but now it was almost a dark purple color. "You actually came back alive?" After a few guards carefully sized him up for a moment, one of the guards stared at Chen Hao and said with a little surprise. Obviously, these guards had long known that Chen Hao had gone to the Magic Cloud Mountain range alone to train. "Can we go in now?" Chen Hao smiled slightly, revealing a mouth full of white teeth, and said indifferently, "The year-end competition is about to begin. Kid, really fucking stinky. Cough cough, if I were you, I would immediately leave here. It wasn't easy for you to come back alive. Why do you still want to court death? Listen to my advice, leave the Shao clan. Be more low-key in the future." What made Chen Hao surprised was that the middle-aged guard actually didn't answer his words. Instead, he looked at him with pity and said, "Thank you for the reminder." Chen Hao was slightly stunned and said to the middle-aged man with cupped fists. Since the other party had confirmed his identity, he didn't hesitate anymore. Under the astonished gazes of the middle-aged guard and the other guards, he resolutely stepped into the Shao clan. Second update. Looking for a recommendation ticket? Looking for a collection? My new book urgently needs everyone's support. Chapter 28. Chen Hao naturally understood that this middle-aged man was doing this out of kindness. He also knew that Shao Jihan might have made astonishing progress in the past 6 months. But was Chen Hao someone who would give up without a fight? Chen Hao was not, and neither was the former madman Li Yuan. Seeing Chen Hao rushing into the Shao residence, a guard covered his nose and said, "This kid really doesn't know what's good for him. It's too smelly. What is on his body? How did he end up like this? Bloody, that's congealed blood. Ah? It seems like it. This is too ridiculous. Did he fall into a blood vat?" Chen Hao did not pay attention to the guard's discussion. Even though he had been running for 3 days and 3 nights, his entire body was sore and weak, and the essence force in his body was almost exhausted. The moment he stepped into the Shao residence, he felt as if all the blood in his body was burning up. Half a year. He had already been a Shao family disciple for half a year. In this half a year, especially the 4 months of training in the demonic Cloud Mountain range, no one knew what kind of hardships and price he had paid. No one knew what kind of severe tests he had gone through. He was back to prove himself. Martial master? Were martial masters that scary? Chen Hao took a deep breath and suddenly increased his speed, bringing along a gust of smelly wind as he rushed into his dilapidated dormitory. He did not want to rush into the martial arts practice field in such a sloppy state. It was too eye-catching and too embarrassing. The most important thing now was to wash off the congealed blood on his body and change his clothes. The Xiao family's core martial arts practice field was specially built for grand events like the year-end competition. On the three sides, there was a grandstand in the form of a flight of steps. In the north, there was a lofty rostrum. In the center of the martial arts field, there was a main arena that was 150 feet in length and width. There were 4 smaller arenas around it. At this moment, the 3 sides of the stands were already filled with people. The east and west sides were the family members of the Xiao family disciples, as well as the Xiao family disciples who had rushed back from various places. They would not participate in the competition and were only spectators. On the south side of the rostrum were the Xiao family disciples under the age of 20 who were going to participate in the year-end competition. There were only 14 older disciples under the age of 20 in the Shi generation, and they were gathered in one area of the stands. The Ji and Xiang generations were divided into 6 regions according to their respective classes. The instructors in charge of each class stood at the front of the class. As the head instructor, the cold-faced Iron Hand Xiao Guan stood at the front with his hands behind his back. Are all the participating disciples here? When the patriarch of the Xiao clan, Xiao Ding, the 4 guest elders, and the 6 elders all took their seats on the main stage, the 6th elder Xiao Bo, who was mainly in charge of the outer disciples' training, flashed, and a majestic wave of brown yuan power emitted from his body. With a light leap, he crossed the distance of several zhang and landed on the main stage. He asked Xiao Guan in a deep voice. His voice wasn't loud, but it drowned out the noise of the crowd and entered everyone's ears clearly. Instantly, everyone quieted down. Reporting to 6th elder, the 14 participating disciples of the Shi generation are all present, the 102 disciples of the Ji generation are all present, and the 99 disciples of the Xiang generation are all present. Number 99, Xiao Xianghao went to the Demon Cloud Mountain range to train and hasn't returned yet. Xiao Guan's words caused the quiet crowd to once again burst into discussion. At this point, everyone was certain that Chen Hao wouldn't return. Di Ling gently bit her lips, her lively big eyes looking towards the entrance of the martial arts stage. It was only at this moment that the last trace of hope in her heart was completely shattered. Xiao Jian, who was sitting in the front row of the Ji generation class, frowned slightly. She originally believed Xiao Lao's words without a doubt, but Chen Hao still hadn't returned, causing her to begin to worry. Motherfucker, this kid is smart. I think he didn't even go to the Devil Cloud Mountain range to train. I'm afraid he ran off to God knows where. That must be it. Piece of shit, he got off too easy. I still haven't gotten my revenge for that kick. Boss, if we knew this would happen, we wouldn't have agreed to a life and death battle with him. He must have been scared away. Xiao Jichang, Xiao Jichuan, and the others whispered to each other beside Xiao Jihan, who was also sitting at the front of the group. Stepping into the 5th grade martial master realm made Xiao Jihan the focus of everyone's attention. Although his title as the number 1 genius didn't change, there was a huge difference compared to before. Especially in the eyes of the Xiao family's upper echelons, it was completely different. Just as Xiao Jichang and the others were about to say something unpleasant, Xiao Jishan, who was sitting with them, suddenly turned his head and coldly looked at them, causing them to obediently shut their mouths. Oh? He still hasn't returned? Then disqualify him. Xiao Bo, Xiao Xianghao has returned. Just as Xiao Bo was about to announce the disqualification of Chen Hao, an old voice suddenly drifted over. In an instant, everyone's gaze turned towards the entrance of the martial arts stage. An old man wearing a loose gray robe, who seemed to have no cultivation, and a young man wearing a white Xiao clan disciple robe, one in front and one behind, bathed in the golden sunlight, appeared before everyone's eyes. The old man was naturally the old ancestor of the Xiao family, Old Xiao. As for the youth in white, it was Chen Hao who had just returned. Chen Hao, who had shed all the filth on his body, had a delicate and handsome face. Although it was still slightly immature, it had a trace of maturity and resoluteness compared to half a year ago. The originally soft lines on his face had also become clearer. His figure had even grown half a head taller, becoming a spirited and handsome young man. Little junior brother? Xiao Jian suddenly stood up, a trace of pleasant surprise appearing on her angelic face. Xianghao? Xianghao? Di Ling Er was so surprised that she almost screamed out loud. She covered her mouth, her big eyes were filled with pleasant surprise, but then she thought of something and became gloomy. She was pleasantly surprised because Chen Hao had returned alive, but she was gloomy because Chen Hao was about to face a life-and-death battle that seemed destined to send him to his death. Xiao Jishan, who had only met once but had established a friendship with Chen Hao, also slowly stood up and smiled at Chen Hao in the distance, clenching his fists tightly. Unlike Xiao Jian and the others, Xiao Jihan, who had always been indifferent and calm, now had an imperceptible flash of ruthlessness and unconcealable excitement in his eyes. If Chen Hao did not return, Xiao Jihan would more or less be unable to truly rest assured. If he had died in the Devil Cloud Mountain range, it would have been fine, but if he had escaped, with Chen Hao's talent, he might become his opponent again one day, and it would definitely be a very troublesome opponent. But now, Chen Hao had returned, and the feeling of having a fishbone in his throat had finally disappeared. This was what Xiao Jihan wanted to see the most. Xiao Jichang and the others also opened their eyes wide, looking very excited. As for the Xiao family disciples who had returned from outside, they looked at the white-clothed youth who came with Old Man Xiao in surprise and began to ask about Chen Hao's situation. As for the Ji and Xiang generations who knew about Chen Hao, they were all very surprised. Looking at the calm and indifferent Chen Hao, from the initial shock, they gradually revealed a trace of admiration and pity. "Greetings, Old Man Xiao." At this moment, with Patriarch Xiao Ding in the lead, a few guest elders, and the other higher-ups of the Xiao family who were sitting on the rostrum immediately stood up and bowed respectfully with cupped fists. "Greetings, Old Man Xiao." Following which, over 10,000 Xiao family disciples and their family members in the martial arts practice field hurriedly stood up and greeted respectfully. Old Man Xiao smiled slightly and waved his hand at Xiao Ding and the others, saying, "You all continue, Old Man Xiao is only here to join in the fun, there's no need to care about me." After Old Man Xiao finished speaking, he turned around and looked at the excited Xiao Jian who had already run in front of him and Chen Hao. "Old ancestor?" Xiao Jian greeted Old Man Xiao, then turned to look at Chen Hao and said, "Little junior brother, you're finally back. Why didn't you come back earlier? You made senior sister worry about you. You're already taller than senior sister." Xiao Jian smiled like a flower and affectionately hugged Old Man Xiao's arm. Her small face was slightly raised as she stared at Chen Hao who was already taller than her. She was both happy and a little reproachful. "It's not too late now, many thanks for senior sister's concern." Chen Hao smiled slightly and said softly, "All right, the two of you hurry over, everyone is waiting for you." Old Man Xiao waved his hand and said, then turned around and walked towards the stands. At this time, 6th Elder Xiao Bo officially announced the start of the large competition. A cultivator's rank was one of the most important standards to measure one's combat strength. Under normal circumstances, it was also the most reliable. Basically, a person's rank could determine one's combat strength, especially if they were from the same clan and cultivated the same cultivation method. Therefore, the first round of the large competition at the end of the year was a rank test. After passing the rank test, all the participating disciples would be preliminarily ranked. The second round was a challenge. After 6th Elder announced the rules of the test, cold-faced Iron Hand Xiao Guan said in a deep voice, "The test will start from the Shi generation. Go on stage according to your ranking. No one is allowed to waste time. Xiao Shiji, begin. Xiao Shifeng, get ready." The first disciple of the Shi generation, Xiao Shiji, who was also the one with the highest cultivation among the remaining 14 disciples of the Shi generation under the age of 20, after responding, his figure flashed and quickly ascended the arena. After cupping his fist to the rostrum in the audience, he took a deep breath and suddenly exhaled. With a boom, a majestic light red protective aura condensed around his body. The powerful Yuan power fluctuations suddenly spread out, and with Xiao Shiji's continuous activation, the light red protective aura's color quickly changed and constantly deepened. After a short few seconds, When the body-protecting qi had almost turned a fiery red, Xiao Shiji immediately withdrew his yuan power. He cupped his hands towards the platform and said, "Peak third-grade martial master, please point out." After Xiao Ding and the others on the platform nodded their heads, Xiao Bo immediately said, "Next." Xiao Shifeng, who was already prepared, immediately stepped onto the stage. As for the third-ranked disciple, he once again walked to the side of the stage to prepare. As the disciples stepped onto the stage one by one, Chen Hao, who was already sitting beside Ling Er, whispered to her. Chen Hao's originally calm expression also changed slightly. He couldn't help but look at Xiao Jihan, who was sitting far away. "Thank you, Chuan Liangwizi, passionate love carrot. Chen, Moua, Yonghen, no tips from Ruoyan, Nenmingzi, XX. My new book needs everyone's support. If you have a recommendation vote, please vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you." Chapter 29. As if sensing Chen Hao's gaze, Xiao Jihan glanced sideways and their gazes met. The corner of Xiao Jihan's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a trace of disdain as he turned his head away. Fifth-grade martial master? He actually advanced to fifth-grade martial master? Chen Hao was a little surprised as he thought to himself. "Xiang Hao, you shouldn't have come back?" Liu Ling looked at Chen Hao worriedly. "Don't worry. I'll recover first." Chen Hao said in a low voice and slowly closed his eyes. Even though he seemed to be in high spirits, the origin energy in his dantian was almost completely depleted. Fortunately, according to the order of the test, he should be the last of the participating disciples, so he still had time to recover. Soon, the 14 Shi generation disciples finished their test. Although 9 of them had reached the martial master realm, especially Xiao Shiji, Xiao Shifeng, and Xiao Shiyun, who were all third-grade martial masters, their faces did not have the slightest trace of pride. The reason was simple: their age. This test would be their last test. They were about to turn 20, and the barrier between the martial masters made it impossible for them to break through to the peak of 9th-grade martial master before the age of 20. This also meant that it would be difficult for them to become the Shao clan's true experts. The Shao clan's outer disciple competition ranking did not have much meaning to them. The reason why they had to participate was because of the upcoming Cloud State martial gathering. Of course, being able to represent the Shao clan was a symbol of honor in itself. Moreover, they would be able to enter the Shao clan's sacred cultivation ground, the Yuanling Cave, for a month as a reward. Although they had no hope of entering the 9th-grade martial master realm before the age of 20 due to the limitations of their aptitude and comprehension, being able to enter the primordial Yang Cave to cultivate once was something that all the inner court disciples of the Shao clan looked forward to. The benefits they would obtain would undoubtedly be considerable. Therefore, no one would hold back their strength. After the Shi generation disciples finished their test, everyone in the martial arts practice field looked at the Ji generation's #1 genius, Xiao Jihan. No, the current him had already risen to become its #1 genius amongst all the disciples of the Shao clan in the past few decades. Just as Xiao Jihan stood up, the martial arts arena was filled with enthusiastic applause and cheers. His followers even arrogantly shouted slogans like, "Boss is invincible." Even Xiao Jian, who had been successfully deceived by Xiao Jihan once again, clapped her hands when Xiao Jihan looked at her. Xiao Jihan had a faint smile on his face and was full of arrogance. He cupped his fists at the crowd and jumped onto the arena in a flash. His gaze carried a trace of provocation as he looked towards Chen Hao's direction. He was inwardly pleased with himself. He was afraid that this brat would piss his pants after seeing his cultivation as a 5th-grade martial master. However, what he didn't expect was that Chen Hao actually had his eyes closed, as if he had entered into a state of cultivation. Even in the face of the huge cheers, he didn't have the slightest fluctuation. Xiao Jihan didn't know that Chen Hao had entered into a state of cultivation not long after the Shi generation disciples started their test. He thought that Chen Hao didn't bother to watch him go up on the arena. This feeling made him feel as if he had eaten a fly and was abnormally stifled. Similarly, when Xiao Jihan went up on the arena, many people also looked towards Chen Hao. They couldn't help but admire Chen Hao's calmness and courage. Xiao Jihan coldly snorted and abruptly circulated the origin power in his body. In an instant, a layer of dazzling fiery red protective aura condensed around his body. The majestic origin power undulations were much stronger than those of the 3 Shi-generation martial masters. Peak 5th grade martial master. Xiao Jihan said proudly. Good. Good. Instantly, Xiao Ding the patriarch and a few other guests and elders on the main stage clapped for the first time. Their expressions were filled with admiration as they nodded and cheered. Very good, Jihan. Peak 5th grade martial master. With such a cultivation, our Xiao clan will definitely be able to hold our heads up high in the upcoming Cloud Province martial gathering. 16 years old. You can participate in the Cloud Province martial gathering for at least 3 more years. Not bad, not bad. 6th Elder Xiao Bo said loudly. 6th Elder, you flatter me. Xiao Jihan cupped his fists and bowed towards the main stage. Amidst the enthusiastic cheers, he elegantly jumped down from the arena. Subsequently, Xiao Jishan and the other Ji generation disciples, who were ranked 2nd, went up on the arena. Although these disciples' cultivations were far inferior to Xiao Jihan and the Shi generation disciples, they were far more popular than the Shi generation disciples. This was because they were young. Being young meant that they had potential and hope. Xiao Jishan, who had stepped into the realm of a 1st-grade martial master, was only 15 years old. Although he wasn't comparable to Xiao Jihan, he was still very outstanding because he was 1 year younger. Xiao Jifei, who was originally ranked 5th in the Ji generation, had also broken through to the realm of a 1st-grade martial master. These two could be said to be outstanding, but they were overshadowed by Xiao Jihan's brilliance and didn't cause much of a stir. Until Xiao Jian went up on the arena, Xiao Jian was the beloved daughter of the Xiao clan's patriarch, Xiao Ding. Just this identity alone made everyone, whether they were sincere or not, applaud and cheer for her. Moreover, Xiao Jian had an angelic face. Moreover, Xiao Jian was very young compared to the Ji generation, only a little over 13 years old. Therefore, when Xiao Jian revealed her cultivation as an 8th-grade martial warrior, it set off a wave that wasn't inferior to Xiao Jihan's. A 13-year-old 8th-grade martial warrior. This talent wasn't inferior to Xiao Jihan's. Although it was more or less related to Xiao Jian's early cultivation. Being able to cultivate early was also a kind of talent. It wasn't something that could be casually cultivated at an early age. Otherwise, the Xiao clan would have already recruited 5- or 6-year-old children as disciples. That way, they could cultivate for a few more years and have a higher chance of becoming an inner court disciple before the age of 20. After the Ji generation disciples were done, it was finally time for the Xiang generation. The Xiang generation disciples had only started cultivating for half a year. Although a martial disciple was also a 9th-grade martial disciple, it couldn't be compared to a martial master. Therefore, the majority of the Xiang generation disciples stepped into the 7th or 8th-grade martial disciple realm. A few with better talent were promoted to the 9th-grade martial disciple realm. The number 1 youth of the Xiang generation, Xiao Xiangting, even broke through the martial disciple realm and became a 1st-grade martial disciple. This caused many people to nod their heads. Xianghao, just as it was about to be Di Lingyan's turn, she looked at Chen Hao, who was still resting with his eyes closed, and called out softly, "And I know." Chen Hao slowly opened his eyes. His dark eyes shone with a faint light as he nodded slightly and said to Di Lingyan, "Good luck." For the past 6 months, Di Lingyan had been working very hard. After seeing the results of the previous disciples, Di Lingyan believed that she would at least rank in the middle. Of course, this was purely based on the martial disciple realm. When Xiao Xiangling stepped onto the ring, in a corner of the east stands, a middle-aged man in his 40s exuding a scholarly aura and a beautiful middle-aged woman who somewhat resembled Di Lingyan lost their initial calmness. Their eyes flashed with a hint of excitement as they stared at Di Lingyan. "Husband, Lingyan is even thinner, it's all your fault." "This? Madam, how would I know that this girl is as stubborn as you were back then? What did you say?" The middle-aged woman frowned. "I didn't say anything." "Well, Lingyan is going to start the test." 8th-grade martial disciple, Please advise me. Di Ling urged the Yuan Qi in her dantian with all her might. Her eyes and palms emitted white Yuan Qi fluctuations as she whispered. Not bad. Xiao Xiangling, right? Ranked 98 with a relatively poor foundation. To be able to become an 8th grade martial disciple in half a year, it seems that you have put in a lot of effort. Not bad, work hard in the future. The patriarch Xiao Ding, who rarely spoke, actually stared at Di Ling Yen with a slight smile and a hint of praise. This made many Xiao family disciples surprised and envious. Especially those who performed better than Di Ling Yen, they felt a little wronged. Why is the patriarch praising me? Patriarch is too kind, thank you, Di Ling Yen said in a low voice. After cupping her fists and bowing, she walked down the stage and met Chen Hao. Chen Hao naturally patted Di Ling Yan's head and said, "Little girl, your progress is quite fast, very good." Then he quickly stepped onto the stage. Di Ling Yan touched her head in a daze. She didn't feel anything when the patriarch praised her. Although she had been in the Xiao family for half a year and hadn't seen the patriarch once, she was not unfamiliar with him. Instead, it was Chen Hao's casual actions that caused the little girl's face to instantly turn red. Di Ling Yan curled her lips, obviously dissatisfied with Chen Hao calling her a little girl. But faintly, Di Ling Yan felt that although Chen Hao was the same age as her, he seemed to be much older than her. This feeling didn't appear when she first saw Chen Hao. It only appeared later, and Di Ling Yan didn't understand why she had such a strange feeling. Moreover, this time when Chen Hao returned, the feeling was even more obvious. Chen Hao's calm and unhurried aura, especially his eyes, made him seem out of place with his peers. This handsome little guy, isn't he the one with the Xiao family's old ancestor? He seems to have a good relationship with our Ling Yan. Why is he ranked last? He's not even as good as our Ling Yan. The middle-aged woman whispered in the ears of the refined middle-aged man, a little puzzled. Why don't you listen to what the people around you are saying? The refined middle-aged man said in a low voice. At this moment, as Chen Hao stepped onto the stage, the entire martial arts arena began to talk. When he came with Old Man Xiao, some people who rushed back from other places began to inquire about Chen Hao's situation. Now, in the entire arena, there were probably only a few people who didn't know about Chen Hao. There were all kinds of opinions. Some said that Chen Hao didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, some felt pity for him, and some admired Chen Hao's fearlessness and courage. But whether it was praise or belittlement, they all agreed on one fact, and that was Chen Hao must die. Chen Hao stepped onto the stage, and under the gaze of all eyes, there was no cheering, only a lot of discussion. But Chen Hao didn't mind in the slightest. Not a single fluctuation of emotion could be discerned from his handsome and delicate face, and his calmness and even indifference caused Elder Xiao, Xiao Ding, and the others on the platform to feel rather surprised. This was an appearance and aura that completely didn't conform to his age, especially when he knew that he was going to have a life and death battle with Xiao Jihan. "Xiang Hao, do your best." But at this moment, Lil Ling Yan's shout was heard. Lil Ling Yan also knew that her actions would attract a lot of attention. Although she didn't like this feeling, looking at Chen Hao's calm face made her feel that Chen Hao was very lonely at this moment. Especially when she thought about the life and death battle Chen Hao was about to face, this feeling became even stronger. So, she mustered up her courage and shouted out loud. Even if everyone looked down on Chen Hao, he was still her friend. Not for anything else, she just wanted Chen Hao to know that she was supporting him, little junior brother. "Do your best." Almost at the same time, Xiao Jian's voice also sounded. Second update. More than 90,000 words. Recommendation votes are really not good enough. Brothers, is this all we can do? Please, I know that everyone likes more than one book, but I really hope that during Dark Mountain's new book release period, you can give some support and recommendation votes to Dark Mountain for now, please. Chapter 30. Perhaps influenced by Lil Ling Er and Xiao Jian, the girls who were close to Chen Hao and Lil Ling Er, Xiao Jishan, and a few disciples who pitted Chen Hao also began to cheer for Chen Hao. Chen Hao's lips curled into a faint smile as he slowly cupped his fists towards the crowd. Chen Hao was indeed smiling, and his smile was very indifferent. However, in the eyes of the crowd, it was completely different. It was as if he knew that he was going to die, but he was still fearless. Boom! Chen Hao didn't waste any time. With a light shout, he abruptly circulated the origin energy in his dantian. Instantly, a boundless origin energy fluctuation spread out. What caused everyone to gasp was that the origin energy Chen Hao emitted was actually dark green in color. Dark green? This was the symbol of a 7th grade martial warrior advancing to a 9th grade martial warrior. Moreover, some of the experts had already sensed that at this moment, Chen Hao's energy fluctuation was actually much stronger than Xiao Jian's. What did this mean? This meant that Chen Hao had definitely advanced to a 9th grade martial warrior. Everyone's eyes were wide open, filled with disbelief. This was especially so for Xiao Jihan and his lackeys, whose eyeballs almost fell to the ground. The entire martial arts stage was silent. Hi! Right at this moment, what was even more unexpected to everyone was that Chen Hao, who'd already revealed his strength, actually didn't stop, and he instead shouted out lightly once more. Instantly, an even more powerful fluctuation of origin energy was emitted from Chen Hao's body. His slightly immature face flickered with a strand of unswerving determination and pride that came from his bones, and his eyes that emitted a dark green glow were firm and burning. Seeing this scene, no one could describe how they felt. Even Elder Xiao, Xiao Ding, and the others on the rostrum were moved. This stinking brat. Old man Zhao's beard trembled as he muttered, but he did not know what to say. Half a year. In just half a year, Chen Hao had been practicing the secret to long life, which was extremely slow. Being able to reach the rank of martial warrior was already amazing, let alone reaching the rank of 9th grade martial warrior. In half a year's time, just the fact that he had advanced to a 9th grade martial warrior was enough to surpass the number 1 genius, Xiao Jihan. But at this moment, what Chen Hao was doing was clearly telling everyone that not only had he become a 9th grade martial warrior in half a year, he had also comprehended the barrier between a martial warrior and a martial master. This was a barrier that most people would not be able to comprehend in a year or 2 or 3. Moreover, he wanted to break through the barrier. Breaking through the barrier in front of everyone's eyes. By reversing his meridians, he would either succeed or die trying to break through the barrier. Reverse the meridians. This was an extreme method of activating the surrounding elemental energy in a short period of time. It could instantly draw out all the elemental energy in one's dantian and force out the elemental energy that had been integrated into the body during tempering, thus increasing one's own elemental energy in an instant. This was no secret to disciples of the martial warrior rank and above. Any martial warrior could do it, but it could only be done when they were in a life or death situation. Otherwise, no one would be willing to endure such pain. Furthermore, the side effects of reversing the meridians were extremely severe. It was very likely that it would cause irreparable damage to the body. But Chen Hao was actually reversing his meridians at this moment to break through the barrier. How crazy and reckless was this? One had to know that since Chen Hao was doing this, he must have already comprehended the mysteries of the barrier to becoming a martial master. He only needed to cultivate step by step. When his elemental energy was vigorous enough, he would naturally break through without any risk. But Chen Hao was using such an extreme method to break through before his elemental energy met the requirements. The dark green elemental energy undulations became stronger and stronger. Green veins popped out on Chen Hao's delicate and handsome face, becoming slightly distorted. He clenched his teeth and his body trembled violently. It was obvious that he was enduring an extremely terrifying pain. The entire martial arts arena was silent. Most of the gazes that were looking at Chen Hao gradually changed, especially those who were cursing Chen Hao for not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth and cursing Chen Hao to be quickly killed by Xiao Jihan. Now, they felt a little apologetic in their hearts. Sigh. It's all because the old man gave him too much pressure. If I knew that this brat was so stubborn, I would have told him that the old man wouldn't just watch him be killed by Xiao Jihan. Elder Xiao stared at Chen Hao in the arena and sighed softly as he thought to himself. At this moment, even if he wanted to stop it, it was too late. Once the meridians were reversed, the only thing he could do was to let it continue. This was not something that could be stopped just because of one's cultivation, especially when Chen Hao was still breaking through the barrier. If he forcefully stopped it, the damage would be even greater. Lil Linger and the others, who were only martial disciples, did not know what Chen Hao was doing. They could only see the shocked expressions on everyone's faces and the painful expression on Chen Hao's face. They guessed that Chen Hao was trying something very dangerous. But Xiao Jian was clear. Xiao Jian stared at Chen Hao in a daze. She was a kind-hearted person, but under the overflowing sympathy, she could not help but shed tears. At this moment, in Chen Hao, she seemed to see the youth who wore coarse hemp clothes when he came to the Xiao family for the test, his face filled with determination to become a martial artist and protect his family. Condense. The dark green spirit energy fluctuations that symbolized a 9th-grade martial artist grew stronger and darker. When it reached its limit, Chen Hao let out a heart-shaking cry. Immediately, the spirit energy in his body began to converge at an astonishing speed into his body. Boom, boom, boom. The spirit energy crazily condensed in his dantian produced a dull roar within Chen Hao's body. After a few seconds, it completely flowed into his dantian. The majestic spirit energy was twice as strong as before the meridians were reversed, and with Chen Hao's urging, it became more and more condensed. At this moment, although there were no signs of spirit energy fluctuations on the surface, the experts present knew that for Chen Hao, this was the most crucial moment. Finally, when the spirit energy in his dantian condensed to a point where it gradually emitted a faint red light, Chen Hao once again let out a low cry. Boom! Under the stunned gazes of the crowd, rays of faint red spirit energy instantly emitted from Chen Hao's body and condensed into a layer of protective qi that emitted a faint red light. His long hair and clothes fluttered in the wind, and his pursed lips seemed to be soaked in blood. However, Chen Hao's delicate and handsome face was brimming with a faint smile. An invisible aura was emitted from his body. It was a kind of arrogance that came from his bones. His deep black eyes shone with a bright red light. Martial Master. 1st grade Martial Master. P.S. Thanks to yesterday's Chuan Liang Wuzi, Passionate Love Carrot, Drunken Dan Yen Ash, Old Friends Support, many thanks. Chen, Mo Xingyi, Albert _47, Purple Moon Orchid ***, watching the sunset at the end of the sky as a reward from 8 friends. First update, please recommend it, bookmark it, thank you everyone. Chapter 31. Although it was only a grade 1 martial master, the boundless origin energy fluctuations made Xiao Ding and the others on the rostrum feel that it was stronger than the grade 2 martial masters of the Shi generation. 1st grade martial master, please advise me. Chen Hao did not give the crowd time to be shocked. His expression returned to its original calmness as he withdrew his protective aura and cupped his fists. Good, Xiao Ding's voice was trembling with excitement. The appearance of a genius like Xiao Jihan was something that the Xiao clan had not seen in decades. Chen Hao, who had only started cultivating for half a year, had entered his sights due to Elder Xiao, but at this moment, he was still extremely shocked. What did it mean to become a martial master in half a year? Amazing, accompanied by exclamations of admiration and admiration, Chen Hao walked down the arena without being surprised by the favor or the humiliation. Others might not know, but he knew that reversing his meridians was a life-saving move that required him to pay a huge price. It was nothing to his physical body. This was not the first time he had used it, and it would not be the last. Even Chen Hao did not expect to face a 5th grade martial master like Xiao Jihan. Moreover, Chen Hao knew that if he was only a martial warrior, he would not be a match for Xiao Jihan. Of course, if it were not for the blessing in disguise in the last 2 months, Chen Hao knew that even if he reversed his meridians, he would not be able to break through the barrier and become a martial master. Phew! When he returned to Lil Ling Er's side and sat down, Chen Hao let out a long sigh. 6th Elder, the test results are out, please take a look. While the 6th Elder was still staring at Chen Hao with a gloomy expression, General Instructor Xiao Guan's eyes flashed with a trace of imperceptible disdain. He handed the notebook to the 6th Elder and said in a deep voice, As the head instructor, Xiaoguan hadn't expected the sixth elder to target a new disciple. However, after Chen Hao and Xiao Jihan had agreed to fight to the death, he knew that there was something fishy going on behind Chen Hao's fall from the top to the bottom. Xiaoguan disdained this kind of behavior. Chen Hao was the disciple of the Xiang generation he favored the most. Otherwise, he wouldn't have directly given him the qualifications to become a disciple of the Xiao family after just one test. And now, Chen Hao's terrifying talent made Xiaoguan realize that even the sixth elder had kicked an iron plate. He didn't believe that the patriarch would watch such a super genius fall in the hands of another genius. As long as nothing unexpected happened to these two people, they would definitely become one of the main pillars of the Xiao clan in the future. Of course, the prerequisite was that the life and death battle between the two of them could be mediated. But sixth elder Xiaobo came back to his senses and received it. Then, he announced the preliminary ranking of the test. Next, the real battle on the arena would begin. From low to high, any disciple who wasn't satisfied with their ranking could issue a challenge to a disciple ranked above them. Everyone only had one chance to challenge someone else. If they succeeded, they would be replaced. If they lost, their ranking wouldn't change. Therefore, it was important to estimate one's combat strength and choose a suitable opponent. Chen Hao's ranking was actually only below Xiao Jihan, the 9 martial masters of the Shi generation, and Xiao Jishan and Xiao Jifei of the Ji generation. He was ranked 13th. The reason why Chen Hao's ranking was lower than Xiao Jishan and Xiao Jifei was mainly because he had just broken through to the martial master realm during the test. As for his true combat strength, it was impossible to determine. Although the protective aura Chen Hao displayed was clearly more vigorous than Xiao Jishan and Xiao Jifei's, it was still not enough. However, combat strength wasn't completely determined by origin energy. In a situation where the difference in origin energy wasn't too great, it would be a competition of martial arts level and combat talent. Especially for disciples of the Xiao clan who cultivated the same martial arts, it was basically a competition of combat talent and usage of martial arts. The 5 stages were activated at the same time, with the higher cultivation occupying the main stage. Even so, it wasn't until the sky was dark that the disciples below the martial warrior level were able to complete their challenges. One could imagine how much importance the disciples of the Xiao clan placed on ranking. Apart from Lil Linger and a few others, almost no one would waste their only chance to challenge someone. Lil Ling didn't challenge anyone, but she was challenged by an 8th grade martial disciple who was ranked lower than her in the preliminary test. The seemingly weak Lil Ling was actually able to retain her ranking. Xiao Ji Yen, an 8th grade martial warrior, became the number 1 person under the martial master rank. The 3rd layer of the longevity secrets finally began to display an advantage that ordinary inner force cultivation techniques could not compare to. The continuous and vigorous Yuan Li allowed her to challenge someone of a higher grade than her and defeat the 1st place in the martial warrior preliminary examination, a 9th grade martial master. She wanted to reach the peak of the martial warrior realm and become the number 1 disciple below the martial master realm. Chen Hao took a deep breath. When everyone's eyes were focused on him, he slowly stood up. His black eyes shone faintly as he walked towards the main stage. Chen Hao was ranked the lowest in the martial master realm. Now that the martial warrior level was completed, it was time for him to challenge someone. Everyone knew that the real show was about to begin. Who would Chen Hao challenge? If not for the life and death duel with Xiao Jihan half a year ago, no one would have thought that Chen Hao would be stupid enough to challenge Xiao Jihan, even if Chen Hao displayed his astonishing talent and stepped into the realm of a 1st grade martial master. After all, Xiao Jihan's strength as a 5th grade martial master was too strong. In the martial master realm, even a difference of 1 grade was a huge gap, let alone a difference of 4 grades. However, since Chen Hao dared to return to the Xiao clan knowing that he would die, it was enough to prove that he was a man of his word. Therefore, when they saw Chen Hao walking towards the main stage, everyone knew what Chen Hao was going to do. Wait. Just as Chen Hao looked at Xiao Jihan and was about to say who he wanted to challenge, the Xiao clan's patriarch, Xiao Ding, suddenly stood up and interrupted Chen Hao. It's already late. The duel ends here. We will continue tomorrow, Xiao Ding said in a deep voice. Patriarch, isn't this against the rules? Hearing Xiao Ding's words, sixth elder Xiao Bo immediately looked at Xiao Ding and spoke with a trace of dissatisfaction. The sixth elder naturally knew that it was not good to question the patriarch's authority in front of everyone. However, he had no choice but to do so. Without a doubt, Chen Hao's astonishing talent had already attracted Xiao Ding's attention. This was something that the sixth elder did not want to see. After all, he had once suppressed Chen Hao with Xiao Jihan and had a guilty conscience. Therefore, he hoped that Xiao Jihan would directly eliminate Chen Hao in this life and death duel. Even if it would cause great losses to the Xiao clan, he would not hesitate to do so. This was better than settling the score with Chen Hao after he had truly matured. At this moment, regret was useless. He could only seize this opportunity to kill Chen Hao in one fell swoop. Even if the Patriarch was unhappy, he could not care less. Patriarch, the outer sect disciples' year-end competition usually ends in one day. It's still early, and there are only a few martial masters left. There shouldn't be many matches left. Why do we have to wait until tomorrow? That's right, Brother Xiao. I still have something to do tomorrow, so let's end it today. Without needing the sixth elder's hint, Grand Elder Xiao Yuan and a guest elder of the Xiao clan took the initiative to speak. Grand Elder Xiao Yuan was the sixth elder's elder brother. The guest elder had always been on good terms with the two of them and was part of the Xiao clan's faction. This is the request of old Xiao, the Xiao clan's ancestor. Jihan Xianghao, the two of you come with me. The rest of you are dismissed. Xiao Ding frowned slightly. After glancing at the three of them, he spoke decisively and without hesitation. Brat, come to my place after Xiao Ding is done talking to you. When the crowd was a little disappointed and some were glad for Chen Hao and began to disperse, Elder Zhao's voice drifted into Chen Hao's ears. P.S. The first chapter will be released at midnight tomorrow. It's a new week. I hope that friends who support Dark Mountain will try their best to support Dark Mountain at the starting point. Thank you. In addition, the average update of 6,000 words during the new book period is really slow. Dark Mountain really did not know how to answer when he saw someone say that the 2 chapters were lousy. The plot is moving towards the climax. Many people can't wait to see the results immediately, but is that really interesting? A book with 1,000-word outline can end? Is that interesting? It's necessary to lay the groundwork and explain the things that should be explained. Please believe in Dark Mountain. Be more patient and careful. Thank you, everyone. Also, this week, our Proud Heavens Sanjiang has recommended. Brothers and sisters, please click on the Sanjiang channel. After receiving your Sanjiang votes, vote for our Proud Heavens. Everyone has 1 vote per day. Please see you at midnight. Chapter 32. Chen Hao furrowed his brows, feeling a little regretful. Although he did not have absolute confidence in winning against Xiao Jihan, it was precisely because of this uncertainty that Chen Hao felt a sense of excitement from the depths of his bones, the excitement of challenging his limits. This kind of excitement made his soul tremble. Chen Hao was very clear that this was because of Li Yuan. However, Li Yuan was him, and he was Li Yuan. No matter who it was no longer important. It was all him. When he found out that Xiao Jihan was suppressing him and wanted to expel him from the Xiao family, he had been looking forward to the day when he could hold his head high and use his own strength, his own fists, to turn these useless people into ashes. Therefore, in this half a year, other than the first 2 months when he followed the class to cultivate in the Xiao family, strictly speaking, he did not truly relax or rest for even a minute in the demonic Cloud Mountain range. He was always in a state of cultivation, hunting beasts, practicing ancient Chinese martial arts, and using the longevity secret art to replace sleep, especially in the last 2 months, when the Yuan Qi condensed from the 2nd level of the longevity secret art stopped disappearing. He went against his promise to Old Man Xiao and ventured deep into the demonic Cloud Mountain range alone. No one knew how much sweat and blood he had shed, and no one could tell. Because of his abnormal physical body, he should have been covered in scars, but there was not a single trace of injury left behind. He had gone through countless perilous situations, especially the last one when he was about to return to the Xiao family. Thinking about it now, while Chen Hao was excited, he also felt a lingering fear. That was truly a situation where he had narrowly escaped death. Chen Hao believed that if it had been an ordinary disciple like Xiao Ling, or even a grade 5 martial master like Xiao Jihan, under such circumstances, the only outcome would have been death. He had survived, and his body looked as if it had been soaked in a pool of blood as he returned to the Xiao family. That was a Class 4 advanced stage demonic beast, the mushroom-shaped vermilion toad, which was equivalent to a 6th grade martial master. In addition to the demonic beast's innate talent and strong physical body, it could definitely reach the 7th grade or even 8th grade martial master. When Chen Hao saw the mushroom-shaped red toad, his hair stood on end. Before going to the Magic Cloud Mountains, he had already read a lot of records about the Magic Cloud Mountains in Old Zhao's room. Of course, he knew how powerful the mushroom-shaped red toad was. But at that time, with Chen Hao's strength, he didn't even have the chance to flee before being directly restrained by a terrifying origin energy fluctuation, and he was sucked into the Crimson Toad's stomach like a frog eating a fly. That was truly a narrow escape. Being able to return alive was all thanks to his freakish physical body. If it were an ordinary person, the moment they entered the mushroom-shaped vermilion clam's stomach, they would be wrapped in the poisonous gastric juice and die immediately, being digested as food. Not to mention, in the mushroom-shaped red toad's stomach, he had played the role of Sun Wukong and fought with Princess Iron Fan, forcefully grinding the mushroom-shaped red toad to death and absorbing a portion of the origin energy within the mushroom-shaped red toad's body, but it was also this last experience that led to the scene of Chen Hao breaking through to the 1st grade martial master realm. Fortune and disaster were interdependent, who could say for sure? Chen Hao shrugged with a little disinterest. He had long guessed that old Xiao wouldn't ignore the life and death battle between him and Xiao Jihan. Even though old Xiao didn't say anything to Chen Hao, who had merged with Li Yuan's soul, could see clearly. Otherwise, old Xiao wouldn't have spared no effort to teach him when he knew that he was going to die, nor would he have secretly followed him into the Magic Cloud Mountains to protect him. Old Xiao only wanted to increase the pressure on him so that he would work harder in his cultivation. During the life and death battle, if his life was really in danger, old Xiao would definitely intervene. And now, the truth was as he had guessed. Don't think that I will let you off just because old Xiao and the patriarch intervened. At this moment, Xiao Jihan, who was walking towards Xiao Ding with Chen Hao, lowered his voice and said provocatively, his expression unchanged after he got close to Chen Hao. Likewise, Chen Hao's expression didn't change as well, but a cold and arrogant glint flashed across his eyes as he replied with equal harshness. Xiao Jihan snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. Xiao family's inner courtyard. Only inner disciples and the direct descendants of the Xiao family had the qualifications to stay in the Xiao family's inner courtyard. Ordinary outer disciples didn't even have the chance to enter. However, Xiao Jihan wasn't unfamiliar with the Xiao family's inner courtyard. Even though he wasn't an inner disciple, he had special privileges in the Xiao family that ordinary disciples didn't enjoy because of his family's relationship with the Xiao family. As for Chen Hao, it was his first time stepping into the Xiao family's inner courtyard. Chen Hao and Xiao Jihan, one on the left and one on the right, followed behind Xiao Ding and walked into a huge room. Jihan, Xiang Hao, have a seat. Only then did Xiao Ding reveal a kind smile as he looked at the two of them. What surprised Xiao Ding was that Xiao Jihan's face was cold and the corners of his mouth were twitching. It was obvious that he was suppressing the anger in his heart. On the other hand, Chen Hao's handsome and masculine face was as calm as water, revealing an indifference and detachment that didn't match his age. Xiao Ding couldn't help but admire Chen Hao's composure. Since I called the two of you here, you should be able to guess my intentions, right? Xiao Ding paused for a moment and didn't give the two of them a chance to speak. He continued, the two of you are not bad. Both of you are geniuses that the Xiao family has never had before. With the talents that you have displayed, the Xiao family is worthy of nurturing at all costs. You should be clear about the Xiao family's current situation, and the two of you are the hope of the Xiao family. So, Patriarch, Xiao Jihan knew what Xiao Ding was going to say next. Thus, he couldn't help but interrupt Xiao Ding after being angered by Chen Hao's disdainful gaze. He said, "I alone am enough for the Xiao family. In the past, I have never seriously cultivated, but now, I promise you that I will cultivate with all my might for the Xiao family. One day, I will definitely make our Xiao family the #1 family in Yunzhou and charge out of Yunzhou. I will do what I say." A man's words carry enormous weight. Since I have agreed to a life and death battle with him, it should be a battle. Otherwise, how will I face the Xiao family? So, please grant my wish, Patriarch. Please grant my wish, Patriarch. What made Xiao Ding's head double was that Xiao Jihan's words were understandable. After all, Xiao Jihan was a grade 5 martial master. He didn't feel any pressure when facing off against Chen Hao. However, Chen Hao actually agreed. Did this brat really think that he, a grade 1 martial master, could defeat a grade 5 martial master? Even Xiao Jihan was a little surprised by Chen Hao's words. In Xiao Jihan's opinion, the reason why Chen Hao dared to be so arrogant was because of old man Zhao's protection. He felt that a life and death battle between them would definitely not happen. However, Chen Hao's current appearance didn't seem to be the case. Of course, that was for the best. He didn't believe that Chen Hao had the strength to defeat him. He, Xiao Jihan, wasn't an idiot like Xiao Jicheng. Furthermore, they were in the martial master realm. A difference of 1 grade could crush someone to death, let alone a difference of 4 grades. He could only say that Chen Hao was an extremely arrogant idiot who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Even Xiao Ding, the patriarch of the Xiao family, was rendered speechless by the two of them. After pondering for half a minute, he frowned and said, "The two of you are just messing around." Is there such a deep hatred between the two of you? Until one of us dies. This time, before Xiao Jihan could say anything, Chen Hao said coldly. In fact, if one only looked at the surface, the enmity between him and Xiao Jihan was indeed just a small fight. The two of them hadn't even had a direct confrontation. However, how could Chen Hao see the problem so simply? Xiao Jihan's series of suppression against him was completely unreasonable. However, it was precisely because it was unreasonable that he was an extremely sinister, despicable, and unscrupulous person. Chen Hao knew very well that as long as Xiao Jihan didn't die, he wouldn't let the matter rest. It would have been fine if Chen Hao was alone. Xiao Jihan didn't care about a clown who could only jump around for a while. So what if he played along? However, Chen Hao wasn't alone. He had a family that he wanted to protect. This was his obsession in the past, in the present, and in the future. Although Xiao Jihan's family wasn't a martial arts family, they had a lot of power in Cloud State. Given Xiao Jihan's nature, Chen Hao didn't doubt that he would do anything to deal with him. Either he dies or I die. Xiao Jihan was stunned for a moment before his expression became abnormally sinister as he said this through gritted teeth. "Both of you." Xiao Ding looked at their determined expressions and waved his hand helplessly. "Alright, since that's the case, I'll agree to your battle. However, it won't be during the Xiao family tournament. Xiang Hao, apart from Jihan, you can challenge anyone tomorrow. If you really want to fight, then fight to the death at Cloud State's martial meet." Cloud State's martial meet? Patriarch, does he have the qualifications to participate? Even if he was lucky enough to qualify, what ability does he have to stand on the same stage as me? I can agree to Patriarch's conditions, but if he doesn't have the qualifications to fight me at Cloud State's martial meet, then he must fight to the death with me after the Cloud State's martial meet. Xiao Jihan looked at Chen Hao with disdain and said to Xiao Ding, "I agree." Chen Hao said fearlessly, "Alright, it's decided for now. You guys can go." Xiao Ding waved his hand and frowned. It was obvious that he was helpless. P.S. Thank you for yesterday's Nanmingzi XX, passionate love carrot. Master Long is here, Emochingi, Dancing with the Wind, Heaven's Destruction, Albert_47, Chin, Chuan Liang Wuzi, Wind Travel Above, World Destroyer Beast, Weasel 22, Watching Sunset at the End of the Sky. In the new week, I implore all the brothers and sisters who are watching AOTON to support Dark Mountain on Chidian. Click, recommend, bookmark. There are too few recommendation votes. Please Please vote for Dark Mountain. Today's first update, the second update at around 12 noon, and the third update at around 7 p.m. Please, everyone. Also, I recommend a friend's book, Online Games, Burning to Desolation. Students who like online games can click on the link on the page to see it. Old author's sock puppet new book, go support it. Book ID equals 2371186, book name equals Online Games, Burning to Desolation, that you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.